line ho, uyu line lelo mana wanzelu, line ho,
line ho, uyu line lelo mana wanzelu, kukacha mama wa amatengazaje kusesa bakomo pamaivaje.
Mama,
early morning
amatengazaje
kusesa bakomo pamaivaje.
magolo
aline
amuya mikila
akuti line lelo mwana wanzeru.
magolo aline amuya mikila
akuti line lelo mwana wanzeru. Line ho, uyu line lelo mwana wanzeru.
Right, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, depending on where you are watching us from. Of course, my name is Samuel Oludare Yorokun, and that is from OY Media Scotland. We've got stuff set up for you for today. And of course, if you've been following us on Facebook or on our YouTube, you would see the program we have for today. So the first person we'll be having is Mr. Deji, and he will be talking to us about the NIN Pre-Enrolment scheme, which is right here in Scotland. Majority of Nigerians that are in UK generally, you know how difficult it is at times to get some couple of things from the embassy if you have to travel to London, either from Scotland or from Manchester or from Wales. But they've been able to bring that right here into Scotland, Glasgow, especially. So the people in Glasgow there, we want to get a thumb up, and I'll just be bringing on Mr. Deji now. You're welcome on the program, Mr. Deji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dari. And I'd also like to thank you very much for giving our organization the opportunity to reach out to our people and communicate with them in order for them to be aware of the service which is within their reach, rather than having to go down to London. Because for some time, London has been, a lot of things have been happening more in England, but the community has been growing and in Scotland, and the services have not necessarily been at easy reach for the community here.
Thank you very much for that. And that's just what you've had. His organization have taken the jump to get those services that you would ordinarily have to travel down to London. We know the cost of transport, but apart from that, even with the COVID restrictions and of course the way things are now, but they've brought it right here into Glasgow. I want to know more about your organization, Mr. Deji.
The name of the organization is called Heled Global Resources Limited, and is licensed as a partner of NIMSI. NIMSI is the National Identity Management Commission, which is the body that is empowered by law to organize the enrollment and capture and manage data of Nigerians. So we, as a licensee, we are engaged in helping to deliver the enrollment services in the diaspora, in this case, the United Kingdom. And our objective is to make sure that the enrollment process is seamless and is easy for Nigerians in the diaspora. And as part of that program, there have been branches established in other places in England, and a branch has been established here in Glasgow to cover Scotland. And as time goes on, we're going to be deploying other strategies to also try and bring the service a bit closer to other people in other parts of Scotland. Well, we're kicking off first of all in Glasgow, and in Glasgow we are operating from 1 minute. Just let me quickly get the address. We're operating from 97 Kingston Street near Bonny Park, Cash and Carry, Tradeston, Glasgow, G5 8BJ. To be a bit more precise, um, it's um, it's the Jesus Praise International Church of God. That's where the operations is taking place.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We'll get the full details of that very soon. Now, for someone like yourself, I think you understand this better than maybe some of us. What is NIN and why is it very important?
All right. The NIN is an acronym for National Identification Number. This is a unique number for every individual. You must be Nigerian, of course, to have your national identification number. And that number is unique to only yourself. You cannot share it with anyone. If you have that number, then it's a way by which you can be identified, and it authenticates that yes, that you're a Nigerian. Um, and reasons, the other question was reasons why we should have the NIN, if I heard you
Yes.
correctly. Okay, yeah. As I mentioned previously, once you have the national identification number, which is a unique number to you, it identifies you as a Nigerian. It also would help you, it avails you of consular services within the mission.
Mhm.
It's not that you go to the mission now. If you have your identification number, they'll be able to clarify that, oh yes, you're a Nigerian. Unlike them asking you to bring this document, bring that document. You have your fingerprints. Once you place your fingerprints on, it calls up all your details, and your fingerprints details. The chances that any other person will have the same fingerprint as yours is 99.9%, which is a very full proof way of identifying the person. So, moving on. With the new e-passport that has been introduced, in order for you to renew your passport so that you can get the new e-passport, you will not be able to renew it unless you have your national identification number. So I'll advise that anyone who has their passports coming up soon that will be expiring, um, or before they expire, they need to ensure that they have their national insurance, no, sorry, their national identification number. I meant to say, and within Nigeria now, if you go visit Nigeria or you're going to be in Nigeria for a while, and you would need your national identification number in order to be able to get your mobile SIM. Also, with respects to running your bank account, you would need your national identification number in order to be able to continue
Mm.
to open an account or to continue to run your Nigerian bank accounts. And finally, one other thing is in terms of diaspora voting. Um, Having your national identification number would help towards diaspora voting, which is something that people in the diaspora has been pushing for. And once it is passed by law, in order for you to be able to vote, you would need to show proof that you're a Nigerian citizen, and your enrollment with your identification number would help to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. So just want again to let our people know the place where you will get this is at, I'm just trying to get that. That is at
Mm,
Jesus Praise International Church of God, 97
yes.
Kingston Street, near Bonnie Park, Cash and Carry. That is interesting. G58BJ. Please take note of that for you to make inquiry or to call. That's exactly the place. And that will be the next question. Do people have to physically come to this place, or do they have to register online before coming, or how does it work?
Well, what happens is, if you want to come, you can go online to our website, and if you are coming from Scotland or its environs like Newcastle, Carlisle, and what have you, if that's a more convenient option for you, you can go on our website to register for an appointment, and there's a fee of £40 to be paid. But if you decide that you want to do a walk-in, it's £50. And if you're going to visit our website is www.eledglobal.com. I'll take it again and I'll spell it: www.edledglobal.com, which is spelled EHLEDGLOBAL.com.
Can you please take that again for me, please?
All right, that's www.eledglobal.com, which is E for Echo,
Yep.
H for Hotel,
Yes.
L for Lima, E
Yes.
for Echo,
Yep.
D for Delta, G for
Yes.
Golf,
Yep.
L for Lima, O
Yep.
for Oscar, B for
Yes.
Bravo, A
Yep.
for Alpha, L for Lima dot
Yep.
com. All one word.
.com.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So we have that right on there. Okay. So that's
Yeah, that's
the
correct.
Yes, that's the website. If you go on there, you go on there to register. Like Mr. Deji said, is £40. And I believe that if you look at the stress of having to go all the way from here to London and having to stay on the queue, and of course, some of the disappointment people have complained about, having to travel so long and not being able to do things as per the time they planned. So I think this is a great one for us. And of course, I've had people dropping in comments there, right, for us. Let me just get. I've seen Legal Entertainment right there. Is one of our supporters. Is one of those organizing um, events and activities here in Scotland. Thanks for joining us. That's Legal Entertainment. And of course, I have Oluwatoyin Olabisi or Moroga. So we've got, and can I get a copy of the link for the recording? Okay, that's all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's fine. We'll get that sorted out.
So
But
once
people
again,
with add-on
sorry,
here,
once again, there's the
yes.
option of you booking the appointment and for you to walk in. If you go online to book your appointment, you're going to be paying £40, and if you walk in, you will be paying £50.
Okay, so
Uh,
that's the for people that work a walk-in service. Just want to do it there and then is £50. That is just £10 extra. And for people that would want to that are not pushed for time, then is £40. Remember that the link again, and I'm going to get that up, is Jesus Praise International Church of God, 97 Kingston Street, near Bonnie Park, Cash and Carry, Tristan, J5, 8BJ. Is just across the river, from the city center. You just cross to this side of the river, and then you are in Tristan. And that's for those people that want to do walking. And
Yeah.
that's for £50. For others, or those that might need further information, that's the website www.lhglory.com.
So
And that is
if
for NIN
if the i-
Pre-Enrolment.
if they're coming from the city center on the
Yes.
bus, it's once they get onto Nelson Street, it's the second bus stop on Nelson Street.
Okay.
So that's the nearest bus stop. You come off at the second bus stop, just walk back a bit in the direction of the where the bus is coming from, and cross over to the other side and walk down.
Okay. Thank you. The last
Uh,
question I'll be asking you is no, actually two. So, but a very quick one is called NIN Pre-Enrollment. Um, So is this a pre-enrollment before the enrollment, or how does it work?
no, it's called enrollment. What happens is you need your documentation. We need to be able to ascertain that you're a Nigerian, and
Yes.
based on those documentation, your data will be captured, and which goes straight into NIMC systems. We don't store any of your data. We That's why once your data is captured, it goes straight into NIMC data, who take control and management of it. Once the documents are verified and everything is okay, the NIN number is generated, and estimated time is about a week. You should get it back in a week. We would send you an email with details of your national insurance number. Once you're captured, once you're enrolled, you get a slip with your tracking number, and that goes into the NIMC systems. Once NIMC systems is satisfied with what has been sent to them, then the estimated time, the current estimated time now is a week, which you'll be sent an email with details of your unique national identification number.
Okay. Thank you, and of course, lastly, I just want to ask if there's any other contact apart from people going on the websites. Do we have a sort of mobile phone or so
Oh
that
yes,
people want to call? Yes.
oh yes. There's the number is 0744
Yes.
0353
Yes, please.
807.
807.
So I'll take it again: 0744
Yeah.
0353
Yes.
807.
Okay. So that is 074403538807. So if you want to contact the organizers, of course, Mr. DG is right on here. You've got the email address, the website where you will register and you upload your documentation. And of course, for walk-in service, that is Jesus Praise International Church of God, 97 Kingston Street, near Bonnie Park, Cash and Carry, Tristan G5 8BJ. Thank you very much, Mr. Deji, for coming on the program, and also for bringing the service to Glasgow or to Scotland generally, because I believe that people will find it easier even from Aberdeen to get to Glasgow rather than going all the way to London. I've seen people dropping a message there in the comment box that wow, this is great. So thank you, and thank you very much.
All right.
We'll definitely also, maybe in about 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so, we'll try to check progress and also get some of the people that have used the service just for us to be able to do a follow on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we will be very glad for any feedback that people send, and trying to take upon those feedbacks and see how we can also better improve services for our people, which is a very important point. I'd also again really like to thank you for this opportunity. Your platform is a medium whereby is helping to bridge the gap and provide a very crucial, essential service for our community, and also enlighten and create awareness for our community. Would like to
Thank you.
thank you very much for all the efforts that and
You're
your
most
service to
welcome.
the community too.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, and bye for now.
Thank you. Happy Sunday, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Ine ho.
Line, line, oh,
Right, let's put
uyo
that one
line,
in.
lo mwanamene.
Right. Thank you for joining us once again. All the people that have joined us on the program. And Mr. Deji, we've got your message again. Thank you for thanking us. We are all involved in the community work. Without taking much of your time, viewers, I'll be bringing straight on Alagba Femi Odedeyi. We've not been around for about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks because of some very important meetings that he has to attend, and those meetings unfortunately clashed with the time of the program, and those are meetings that has to actually deal with some other groups, Yoruba liberation groups and agitators. So it was something that he knew he had to attend so that he can keep our viewers abreast of what is happening right at the background. You know, many people believe that, yes, Sunday Igboho has been captured, that's the end of it, but then others are working right beneath. So, and Alagba Femi Odedeyi will be telling us more and also assessing the current political situation in Nigeria. You are welcome on board, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for once again being on the
All
show.
right.
And like you said, I also missed the audience and those who have been participating with us and encouraging us by their activities. And, once in a while things happen. But as long as we keep the momentum going wherever we are, you
Yes.
know, we are confident of victory eventually. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Are most welcome. I'm going to start from this tough angle, and this has to do with on the program. You've always um, asked the Yoruba people to be careful about the no 2023 election, and you are from the view that if we do not partake in what we should partake in. I mean, if there are no other options and it's being done, we might eventually get people that are not from us being foisted on us as leaders. Now, I
Yeah.
want to bring it from this angle. In the past 2 days, there have been some news coming from the eastern part of Nigeria, where some elder statesmen from that angle are even saying that if the East has to beg and prostrate to get the presidency, they are willing to do it. Now, I'll take it straight back to Nina's, where the actual narrative or chant about no election in 2023 is coming from. So if the East are actually taking steps, including willing to prostrate to get the presidency, what will be the fate of the Yoruba liberation agitators?
Well, thank you for that question. The fate is very simple. We will just lose out. Yoruba land will lose out, not because we were pushed out, but because we pushed ourselves out. It's one thing to contest for something and lose. It's another thing to even paralyze yourself from contesting. Because at the end of the day, if you contest and lose, you still have something to bargain with, to negotiate with. But if you have already shot yourself in the foot, cut your nose to spite your face, you have nothing to bargain with. So, to be very practical, if we look at what happened in the East, weeks before the election, you have hip hop saying all this sit at home and all that and all that. Then they came around and said, well, they are not saying people should not vote. They are just saying people should stay at home. Then eventually they said, well, you can vote for your conscience. And then you can see the way the political atmosphere was now bent towards the emergence of ABGA. ABGA as the
Yes.
leading candidates. ABGA was formed essentially as an Igbo party, as it were. I mean, like the AD that we had in the West and all that. And then the crisis that was imposed on ABGA that made it go in different directions. So for them, ABGA is their party, and they need to legitimize ABGA to represent them. So they had to contest in the election in Anambra State to ensure that legitimacy. And they got it. So otherwise, why would people that can think be talking about begging and prostrating before they are given the presidency? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So, but they can afford to say that because they know that they have a legitimate political party in place. So they can say anything and get away with it. If they don't have the party in place and they start talking like that, then everybody will just take them for fools. Okay, so they have already perfected their expectation. Okay, for us in Yoruba land, I had someone, part of the Yoruba nation agitator saying that they are going to kill people who vote. I mean, you don't conduct any self-determination or liberation movement like that by killing your own people, as it were. You don't do that. That is not liberation. Because your people, whether they are politicians or not, are not your number one enemy. We all know where the problem is coming from, which is the control of the central government. So if some of your own people are saying, let us go there to contest it with them, and you want to kill them, then you are just leaving room for the central government to do anything it wants to do. And someone was saying the other day that they could have killed 4 or 5 governors. So if you kill 4 or 5 governors, they will replace them with their deputy. You kill their deputy, then they declare a state of emergency, and somebody, So the Yoruba self-determination movement is a generic word. Let's be very frank with ourselves. It's very generic. Anybody can come up in the social media and start making claims.
Yes.
Fine, whether your claims are, because, and this is a lesson, I think, I will look at it from 2 perspectives, the political and the military. Let's look at the political. If the politician, the political, the leaders of the self-determination movement are saying, yes, we want to go to Yoruba, we want Yoruba nation now, we want this, we want that, and this is the way we want to do it. And they have done it that way, and there was no result. They went to the United Nations. They said they will get United Nations to come and do this and that. Well, we haven't seen the United Nations, and we know the United Nations cannot do anything. Then they said, no, they are not going to contest the elections. Okay, fine, you are not going to contest the elections, or you don't believe in contesting the elections. And those who are contesting the elections, we want to paralyze them. And then at the end of the day, one party will be declared the winner, unless you can compel the central government not to declare a state of emergency. And for you to compel the central government to do that means you have to find a way to neutralize the federal government. In other words, and that is where the military comes in. If the federal government declares a state of emergency and you refuse, you need to have your army in place to contest the land against that Nigerian army. We don't have it. Well, those who claim they want to open the border and do this and do that, they have machines. Military engagement is not propaganda. Propaganda is a function of military effectiveness or ineffectiveness. A liberation movement with its own army does not go about boasting what it has. It is the engagement that we make that will announce itself. So if we say we have this, we have that, we have powers, we have all kinds of things, but the central government that is controlling the land is still doing anything that it wants to do, I mean, you are just exposing yourself unnecessarily. Let's be frank with ourselves. And I think with the Igboho experience, this is the time for everybody to be realistic and for direct intervention by those who know what it takes to engage in a liberation struggle. And there are so many of them in Yoruba land. Even under Abacha, we didn't get this kind of boastfulness among the participants.
Yeah.
And people lost their lives, they lost their properties, they lost, things like that. But they were not going about, all these things. So it is time that we call ourselves to order and Yorùbá máa ń ní kán ṣe bó ṣe ń rí kó ba lè kán ṣe bó ṣe ń ṣe kó ba lè rí bó ṣe ń rí. So we are not a special people. I have to emphasize that because even the Yoruba liberation, they will say we are Yoruba people. We have specialties. We have been ancient. Everybody is an ancient people. Kò sẹ́ni kankan láyé tí ò ní ancient history tiẹ̀. You have this, you have that, you have your Orisha. Kò sẹ́ni tí ò lóríṣà tiẹ̀ láyé in all the peoples, so and we all know it. So don't let us mythologize reality. Let us face the reality that we are in and be able to devise strategies. Ṣebéyàn àwọn tá à ń pè ní darandaran Fulani or no Fulani, they are human beings. They have the same brains that we have, or we have the same brains, or we even have superior brains than them. So if we have superior brains than them, why are we now behaving in an inferior manner? So it is a wake-up call. Now, having said all that, the fact that some people said they want to participate in the election doesn't mean that it is the election that will resolve the problem. It doesn't mean that. What we are simply saying is that, it's like when you are playing chess, a game of chess. You have your knight, you have your bishop, you have your pawn, and you have your queen. So when the time comes, the rook that they call the castle will now be placed in a position to protect the king from being captured. It will change position with the king, push the king somewhere, and be in direct line of fire. So if we are saying, yes, leave those who want to contest, we are playing castling, we are castling. We are saying, let us protect our land. So I want all those who want to contest the election, let them go forward and fully but in the process of doing that, we are protecting our land so that at least there will be people there that will be facing them. They may not be doing what we want. They may not even be concerned with what we want. But the point is, it is better and more productive to have a Yoruba, in Yoruba terms, as, let's say, governor of Lagos, than have another Yoruba, in quotation marks now, as governor of Lagos. You know what I mean? So you can have a Yoruba that maybe the East has prostrated to him to become governor. And, so he will be representing those who prostrated for him. So that's what we are saying, that we have to be able to be flexible. Flexibility is an intrinsic part of the self-determination struggle, so that you know what battles you are fighting at any particular time. So what we can do in Yoruba, we can now, if we understand what we are doing, okay, you want to contest election for governor of Osun State, and that is what the Yoruba Referendum Committee is saying. Okay, what is your stand on Yoruba referendum? How do you, I mean, it's an open and short question. Yes or no? Are you in favor of it? Yes. You are not in favor? No. Why are you not in favor? Let it be on record where you stand. Now, even if you say no, it won't stop the agitation. It's just that you have put yourself among those that we know are not going to be in our corner. But we will not stop you from being governor, because at the end of the day, whether you become governor or not, we know your own problem is not even going to start with us. Your problem is coming from Abuja, and they will start playing. So you still come back to us to say, come on, how do we do this? So we know that. So what we are saying is, don't let us shoot ourselves in the foot. We can make a demand on our politicians, and they will have no choice but to respond. But threatening them, killing them, talking about violence and all that, and it's also, I like referring to Ethiopia because the situation is similar to us or to ours. That if the Tigrayan people have not been able to have control of their Tigray region, they will not even be able to sustain any defense to the point of threatening taking over the country itself. So at the end of the day, even if they lose the war, if they fail to take over Addis Ababa, they will have been able to create a buffer between them and Addis Ababa for their region to do whatever it wants to do. But look at you, we have 6 states minimum, and then anybody can be governor anywhere. And then, so how do you even start engaging in battle if you don't have that regional expression, that regional reality? And when we talk about Awolowo did this, Awolowo did that, it was done under the regional system. Yeah. And if we compare the regional system and even the Second Republic, that was an imitation of the thing. It was essentially the same people that participated in the Western region that were also in the UPN in the Second Republic. But we also know that the kind of crisis that the central system gave them at that time, I think we were 5 states, Lobo states, Lagos, Ogun, Ondo, Bender, and we know what happened. How they try to destroy each of the states at that time. That barely, I think UPN was barely able to win in Bendel. And, we know what happened in Ondo State, in 1983. And we even know what happened in Oyo State. So all these things, if they were under a regional administration, there may be crisis, but it will be contained within that regional matrix. But once you remove the economy, I mean, báwọn Yorùbá ṣe ń sọ, ó dàbẹ̀ nípa expression yẹn correct, pé tán bá ní wọ́n ṣí orí adé lórí èèyàn. So once you remove the region, the regional umbrella, anything goes. And that is what we have to prevent. So I hope I have not spoken.
Yes, that's fine, sir. Let's look at in the history of Nigeria or Yoruba people, whether during the regional or the military, etc. Has there been any time we had a case of one part saying they're not going for election, and what was the result of that?
Okay. In 1964, there was the crisis in the Western region, and the alliance NPA started in 1962 and all that. So in 1964, there was supposed to be a countrywide election, and there were some alliances. The AG and the NCNC formed UPGA, and the NPC and the NNDP in the West formed NNA or something. So UPGA decided that they will they will boycott the election. Now, in the Western region, because of the crisis in the Action Group, it was the NNDP that was in power. That was Akintola's party. The AG was in opposition, as it were. In the East, the NCNC was in power. So when they both decided to boycott the election, it was easier in the East because it was an NCNC affair. So they were able to boycott the election in 1964. But in the West, because there was a division between AG and NNDP, AG that boycotted the election simply lost out. They just put all the NNDP people just returned unopposed. And that was how NNDP, or Akintola's party, became the dominant party in the West at that time. And then it now absorbed the Yoruba NCNC and everything called, I think when they contested the election, it was known as UPP. And then they formed the NNDP, the Nigeria National Democratic Party. And then that was the election, that was what they used in 1965 to rig the Western region election that now led to Wetie and subsequent events. So in that scenario, you will discover that because there was an alternative, which was Akintola's party, the boycott could not take place. And the aim of the boycott would have been that if the East and West boycotted the election, then the North will not be able to have a government that will crisis and all that and all that. But they couldn't achieve it because there was someone in the West they could use, and they did use it. That was the Akintola movement. So there were other parties in the East, like Chike Obi, NIP, Rivers Party, all kinds of, but they were minor and insignificant. So NCNC was able to have its way. In the West, of course, Akintola was not insignificant. So the AG could not have its way. So that if we now transfer that into today, and then we see a situation where we see, number one, those who are even saying they don't want elections are not even members of any political parties.
Yeah.
They are not, they don't have the political party of their own. They are just, agitators and militants and stuff like that, which is okay. So none of the political parties are saying that they want to boycott the election. And it is the registered political parties that are going to register. So two things will happen. If the political parties want to contest election and the people are saying, no, there must be no election, then, the people must be able to defend the land against election. That is, if they bring in the army and all that and the police and they say they are carrying out security, you will be able to counter those measures if you can. If you can't, and then you now say you don't want elections and any of your politicians that pursue election will be dealt with, quote unquote, dealt with, and then you scare them into not participating, it is because you are going to be scaring those that you know. Let's say APC and PDP now, the two major parties. So all the candidates in the APC and PDP simply disappear because they don't want to be killed, right? So, but there are other parties that we don't know whose names will be on the ballot. All they need to do is to have only one person to go to the polling booth and drop his ballot. And that person, whoever he is, whether it's Fulani or Igbo or Yoruba, will be declared the governor. And you cannot now come and say that you have been denied your democratic rights because they didn't say you shouldn't vote. It was you who said you are not going to vote. So that is one extreme. Of course, we do know that the politicians also have their ways of doing things, so nobody will scare them from not doing what they want to do. But let's just assume that they have been conveniently and sufficiently scared to withdraw from the election, that they are not going to do it. All the central government needs is to have just one insignificant political party from anywhere, and the person will come with his soldiers and security guards. They will go to the polling booth and ask their supporters to vote. So unless you can prevent the soldiers and the security agencies from protecting that polling booth,
Yeah.
we will vote and the vote will count. So if they do that, and when things get to that point, anything can happen. If they now install that person as the governor, and you say you are not going to uh, recognize that governor, and they will still call the police and the army to impose the governor. So you still have to fight the army and the police, one way or the other. There's no running away from it. So if that is what they have in mind, though, I don't know, because someone said he went to the border with 18 Hilux trucks full of arms and ammunition. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Maybe they have it. I have no way of knowing, and I don't know. And if it is true or false, it is not something that should be boasted about by anybody. So let people let's take out emotions.
Yes.
And be very realistic. So that was what happened in 1964 and 1965, and that should be a lesson that something we should learn from in what is coming, and not put ourselves. I don't want to go into. There's no unity in Yoruba land. If there's unity, there'll be this and this and this and that.
Yeah.
The point is, there was someone ready to play the game in Yoruba land, whether we like it or not. He played the game, NNDP, and the boycott was destroyed, and eventually it led to what it led to. So, and we must be conscious of that. It's not a question of whether Yoruba can be united or not. It's simply a question of what are the political impulses that is driving whatever it is that we do.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. We've got a comment right on here by Solomon Oluwabi. Thank you very much, sir, for putting that comment on. And it reads, failure to vote will be disastrous. Instead of agitating for no election in 2023, the people should push for referendum while working with grassroots to participate in such. And I think it's still going on with this follow on. One of the challenges we are facing in this generation is that some younger generation are not learning from history. Thank you very much, Mr. Solomon Oluwabiyi.
Thank you
But
very much. Yeah.
I think it's gone beyond even the younger generation now, because most of the groups now, the ones that are being led as a group, I think we have our elders there, including Afenifere, Ilana Modua. And we have lots of the other ones, including the ones in the diaspora. Now, one of the reasons, some of the people that are saying there should not be an election, one of the reasons they've been putting up is that if Yoruba partakes in any election, that means we are still subscribing to the constitution. We are faulting and we're saying the constitution is not working for us. So they're trying to see, if we don't agree with this constitution, if we don't agree with these, how they match up, and we can see when the cane, where the cane flips in, then by participating in that election, we're still saying that yes, we are still under this system. How do you factor that out, sir?
Yeah, it's a question. I don't know the Yoruba word for it, but the Oloyinbo people, they call it dialectics. It's a dialectic of change. In other words, I don't know the exact Yoruba word for it, but let me describe it. It's like a contest. You have a contest between, let's say, good and evil. Let's say good and evil to be. You have a contest between good and evil, or light and darkness.
Yes.
They are not separate because they don't exist in separate universes. They exist within a single universe. So they have to battle each other for the control of that universe. So,
Yes.
I mean, we know when light appears, darkness disappears, Abi. So that shows that light controls that darkness. So the same thing here, good and evil, that okay, we say this thing is not bad, is not good for us. We don't want it. It is not the elections alone that determine whether we want it or we don't want it. As we don't want it now, if they say you should go and register for national identification number, you will go and register. If you say you should drive on the left side of the street, you will drive on the left side of the street. If they say your work day starts on Monday and ends on Friday, that is what you will do. If they say that, any regulation that they bring up, you want to travel out of the country, you still get your Nigerian passport. You are not going to go to the American embassy with a letter or an affidavit saying that you don't believe in Nigeria as a country, therefore you are not in Nigeria. They won't even let you enter the gate. So, but in all instances, we are living under it. That's why I said the good and evil don't operate from different universes. We are just trying to control the universe we live in. So our everyday life is governed by the constitution we don't like. That is, that we don't even contribute towards its making. But our everyday life is controlled by it. So we live by it. What we need to do is now to say, yes, we don't like it, we need to change it. So if you see a policeman tomorrow in full uniform, you can't just go and slap the face, say, why are you wearing that uniform? Because the Constitution gives him the right to wear that uniform. So what we are now saying is we don't like it and we don't accept it. What are we going to do about it? That is where the contest between good and evil, light and darkness comes in. That is the dialectics. Right. That is, you are living in a situation you don't like while making an attempt to transform that situation to one that you like. So all kinds of forces will interplay. So it is not only when elections are coming that we suddenly realize that the Constitution is faulty. It is just that election becomes a barometer of our strength and our weakness. It's just a barometer. So if we now say, yes, why are we participating in it? That's why I said the other time, I use chess as an example. You have there are pawns. Politicians can be pawns. Okay, a pawn is a chess piece that can be discarded and used for any purpose, although it can also be strategically used. So we say, okay, say you want election, okay, if we can't put our people there, anytime this is what we want you to do.
Right.
Then you can say, it's not yet time, it is this. You can find any excuse. But we have made that demand. Now, we are not stopping there by saying we make a demand that can be rejected by you. We are also now, that's why I believe what the last commenter said, that grassroots engagement, that we are now mobilizing for our own political alternative to what is on ground. It needs to be legitimized. It needs to, so we can't, to legitimize it, we have to delegitimize what exists. So how do we delegitimize them? They say they want an election. We put up our proposal. They have their election. That's we are using the referendum as an example now. We now say this is what the Yoruba people want to. In government, do this for us. If they now say they are not going to do it, that gives us the right to, do whatever we want to do. Okay, we have voted you in, or you voted yourselves in, you represent us, this is what we want. And we are able to mobilize the grassroots and all that to make that demand, and you still refuse to do it, that gives us room to do whatever we are. I mean, and this is not about killing anybody. It's just a political movement that can arise that will now challenge that status quo. So that is where the dialectics come in. So it's not a black and white issue. And maybe you don't like it, why are you participating in it? And so if you want to do what Wale Soyinka will call Jankara analysis, I will say, maybe you say you are not a Nigerian. Why don't you go and slap the face in the street? So things are not like that. So let's, if we understand it, it's a question, self-determination is a contest for legitimacy. It's a contest for controlling a political space. So, and that is why the Nigerian government is doing everything to make sure they conduct elections, because they want to appear to the rest of the world that they are legitimate.
They're legitimate. That's it.
So what we need to do is to puncture that legitimacy. And the only way to puncture that legitimacy is by creating our own alternative legitimacy. So if the people of Osun State, for example, come out and say, okay, you governor, you want to run for governor, you don't need, you have been governor in APC now. You have been governor for 4 years.
Yes.
We want a referendum. And then he comes out and says, don't wait to vote for me when I get there. You don't need to get there anymore. You're already there now. Before you leave, sign for the referendum. He has two choices, yes or no. And okay, say no. Say you are not going to sign. No problem. We will meet somewhere later. Let's resolve issue. So it's not, and that is one of the problems some of us see in the Yoruba liberation movement, that the ability to craft a pathway, a sustainable pathway. What we are seeing essentially is let us form an organization. Let us speak with one voice. So when they come together to form something, speak with, like you mentioned about generation and all the rest. So you have elders in the leadership. It is elders that will first of all break apart. They will start fighting. They have started. We know it, so there's no need to repeat it. So when they start fighting, the young Inko, if it is not money, they start making all kinds of accusations against each other. But none of them will say, I disagree with so and so because the road he is treading is not acceptable. This is the proper way to go. That is a different kind of fight. Okay, let's take the politicians. They say those who are, aside from personal, we don't want Tinubu as president because he's this. Okay, fine. Tinubu says, well, if he hasn't said so, but let's assume he says he wants to run for president. He says, look, if I become president, I will restructure, I will do this, I will do that. And then we say, no, we don't want you to be president because you can't do it. That's a different fight. Because Tinubu says, this is where I think we should go. And we are saying, no, this is where we should go. That is a different fight. But if there is nothing like that, Tinubu just says, I have to be president because, well, I've been governor, and I've been this, I've been that. Then I say, I should be. You think because you have money, you think you can be president? That is not a fight. That is not a fight, and that is what has been happening. There is no ideological, practical way that differentiates the differences. So that is the problem we have to address. And all these issues about, maybe you say you don't believe in it, why are you participating in it? It's not only a question. It's, that's not it.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll just before we come to the referendum and the progress on there, we obviously know what's been happening the past few weeks.
Yes.
NINAS is seen as one of the leading organization or groups of people from the lower Niger, from Yoruba, and from other, well, they will say minority, but I think they are actually majority.
Yeah.
And they are coming, and most of those groups are mostly, if not all, from the southern part of the country. And they've been on the journey for a while. In the past few weeks, there have been an unfortunate incident which has sort of affected the leadership of NINAS. And that is not just the only organization that have had a similar issue. If we look back, there are quite some number of organizations that comes together like that, and they look so formidable. But at a point, there will be issues, and then they will split. And something that has been like the hope for the people suddenly collapses, and then people are trying to find their way out. Now, there are two questions I'm going to bring up here. Firstly, is you probably have mentioned part of it in while dealing with the last question, but if we see this happening often, a group is being set up, look quite so strong, quite formidable, then in a few months, then there will be issues, and then they split, and that's it. So why do you think this kept on happening, and what could be done? That's the first question. The second question, because we know Afenifere has been around for a while through the military governments, other democratic governments. So we know Afenifere has been there. But at the moment, all these major groups, we've really not seen any that have put what we could consider, and I'm talking about the major ones that we've known, something that we can call the pathway. And it's on the backdrop that most times, and with all respect to our elders in Afenifere, will either be begging IBB or be begging Buhari to give us restructuring, which should not be, because there are constitutional rules, there are legal ways, there are ways to legitimize without having to go and beg a president that will be there for a maximum of 8 years. So we've not seen any of the major group put something down that, okay, this is our pathway to freedom, and this is a rough time target and things that we can actually measure to know that if we're on this agitation for 6 months, we can say this is where we started, this is where we are now, and this is where we're going. So I want you to deal with that side. First of all, people coming up with groups, but then over time it splits, and then we have multiple of groups. Then what can we do to prevent such happening?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't prevent that from happening. It's part of reality. The easiest thing is to set up a group. as it were. You set up a group, of course, you have a fanciful title or name and all that. But again, the question is, what is the pathway that you are pursuing that will give identity and relevance to that group? If you look at all the groups that we are talking about, that has been a missing element in all this. And I will link it to even Yoruba history, recent one for that matter. When they formed the Egbe Omoduduwa in 1945, and Awolowo made his prognosis as to federalism and all that. And then when they came to Nigeria, then I think the McPherson Constitution at that time now allowed elections into regional assemblies. What did Awolowo do? They formed the action group. Before he formed the action group, the first few meetings that they held were disappointed. Everybody that was invited didn't come. It was the last meeting when only 7 of them appeared that he said, well, if only 7 of us are going to be holding meetings, so it means Yoruba land has nothing to offer to anybody. And that, they are going to cancel it. It was Papa Jasin that said, let's hold another meeting and blah, blah, blah. So it was that next meeting that more people turned up and they formed the action group as if, first political party in Southern, and they contested the election and won. Why did I say that? Without they are forming the action group, they would not have been in government in the Western region, and everything we now attribute to them would not have been possible. Even then, when they formed the action group, there were different kind of parties, groups Ondo Improvement Union, Ibadan Parapo, Kinikon Welfare Association, Ilesha Development Council, all kinds of things. But none of them had that political gravitas to take on the responsibility of running the region, except the action group. So if we now come to today, we now find all these groups. Yes, groups, but none of them has said, oh, this is the way we will achieve what we want. All of them are just the big general statements, restructuring, self-determination, this and that and that and that. Even Afenifere, unfortunately, that was the precursor to all this, because the action group, the Yoruba name for action group at that time was Afenifere. And like you rightly pointed out, what we have been seeing, anybody that is president is the person they expect to come and restructure. They never mobilize their homeland for that restructuring. So it is very easy. And if you look at the history of many of the liberation movements in the world, I will use another example. Although at the end of the day, the whole thing became another thing. I will use Nicaragua. Nicaragua is a very small country in Central America. And they had this dictator running them. I've forgotten the name of the dictator now, but it was so they had, there was a guy called Sandino. Sandino was the leader of the Nicaraguans that fought against the Spanish when they were colonizing the place. Of course, they caught him and killed him and all that. So when this dictator came on board, they formed a group around that Sandino. They called it the Sandinista forces. So when the Sandinista now said, okay, how do we approach this thing? They split up into 3 factions. One of them said they want to engage in guerrilla warfare to fight the military regime. We are talking, I think Nicaragua, I think it's less than 5 million people, or I don't know. Okay. Another one said, no, they don't need guerrilla warfare. They need insurrection from inside the city, capital itself, against the government. Then another faction said, no, we don't need both. All we need to do is to capture political power and get it. Okay. All of them, they went their separate ways. They were still using the name Sandinista.
Okay.
because it's like using Awolowo in Yoruba land. So they went for years. Each one was doing their own thing, and they were not fighting it. Of course, they would be abusing each other, but each one was specific. We want insurrection, we want guerrilla warfare, we want political participation, and they were doing it until 1978 when they said, okay, so what do we do now? The three formations now came together because at that point they were now united against that military dictator. Okay, the insurrection, carry out your insurrection. The guerrilla forces, amass your forces. The politicians get together in doing what you need to do. So they were able to coordinate and overthrow the regime. Of course, the end result till today was a disappointment, but let's leave that aside. So what I'm saying is this: if all these Yoruba groups, when most of the time we tend to, and I'm not denigrating any individual, but when we form groups, we look at the person, the individual. Oh, this guy, this is this, is this, is this, is it. We rally around the person without even considering the strategy and tactics that the person is laying before us. So at the end of the day, as human beings now, we make choices which may not be palatable to everybody. So it is those choices that will now lead to accusations, and then they will split. And then another individual will come up from that split. They will rally around that individual again until that individual makes another decision that is not palatable. And so you find all this. But if the Nicaraguan case is very pertinent here, that in each of the splits, each one has a specific path. So if those who are saying Yoruba nation, I want Yoruba, you now establish, now this is just for theoretical purposes, you now establish an army, whether rural or urban, and you say you are going to start engaging the Nigerian army, to liberate Yoruba land. Nobody is going to come and start arguing with you, even in Yoruba land. Well, they may disagree with your tactics and strategy. And those who want to contest election, they will say, let us contest election. And those who may want to say, look, if all the people in all the cities in Yoruba land carry out an insurrection, that will be the end. You start planning. What you are planning will take up your time in such a manner that you are not going to see the individual weakness in the other person and say you are leaving. So when you now discover that you need to collaborate, there will be a basis for collaboration. So if the guerrilla movement now says, well, in Yoruba land, guerrilla movement will work. Because, if we set up something from Ijesha land today, and the central government goes to Ikiti and set up another thing, and, you will be able to work out all those things. So when you are able to work it out, you will now arrive at, okay, you have your forces here, you have your forces here, you have your forces there. How do we move in unison? It is those forces that will be moving in unison. But because of that lack, when you have an organization, it is, so and so, he's a leader. So and so, he's this. And you want to associate yourself with him. You want to show that you know him. So everybody rallies around him. And something breaks, and then they become, So there's no way to say, and, nobody will say, okay, I am disagreeing with this man or this leader because the way he's going. Of course, they will find out an excuse, but most of the excuses is he has collected money somewhere, he's meeting somebody somewhere, he's doing something. Those are the kind of excuses that always accompany all these breaks. It is not a question of, okay, this man is saying we should organize an insurrection in Ibadan, and I don't agree with it. Even if you don't say it openly, you can say, and I'm out. Nobody is saying that. So that is what has now given rise to all kinds of boasting. I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, I can do that. So that is what we have to address. And this is not a question of boastfulness. That is what the Yoruba Referendum Committee has said. Look, we have a pathway. And essentially what we are saying is the very first thing that we need is a regional political center.
Right.
Just like the Western region governments. If we have that, all other things will fall into place. But that's a different question to address. It's not connected with this. But what I'm saying is, what the major issue that is facing the Yoruba movements today is that lack of a pathway. That's why when they say they want to create an organization, all they will be saying is we need to come together and speak with one voice. What one voice? If you want to speak with one voice and you don't have the mouth, so the mouth is the pathway. But all we want is just, we are Yoruba people. We need to be united. We need, we can't speak with one voice. We can't do this. We can't do that. And when you say even when Awolowo was chosen as the leader of Yorubas in 1966, there was a pathway that was chosen in 1967 by the speech that he made in Ibadan. If the only way the Yoruba will remain in Nigeria is if these 4 conditions are met. And everybody agreed with it and said, okay, you are a leader, go ahead and work on it. But if it is just, they have put this man in jail, he has suffered for us, let us recognize him as our leader, he's very intelligent, he's this and that. But because there was those 4 conditions that bound them together, that became the program for Yoruba land, for the West, they were able to do whatever they want to do. And that is what is missing today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think you've taken part of the second question, which was yes, that if we have so many groups and there seems not to be a clear way or path. Yeah. We've also had, I believe you've attended some of these meeting with other groups as well, because we have other people too that are trying to bring the groups together, at least for them able to share ideas. So if we have these so many numbers of groups, Yoruba liberation movements or agitators or activists and all that, and it was quite difficult to get what we can consider to be like a pathway for if people talk about 2023, we're closing up 2021. Already we've started having elections. By next year, we'll be having Osun and Ekiti. So, in fact, next year is
everything.
Politicians, yeah. That's when they start going back to, they are going back home to talk to their people, preparing for the next election. So, and between now and then, even right up until now, it seems that for most of the groups, especially, I kept talking about the popular ones because I believe that if the popular ones have been able to put something strong down for the people, it will be easier for the smaller organizations to key into it. Even if they are different organizations, but they could say that, yeah, we agree with what they're doing, we'll be following that same vision from our angle here. But that is not in place at the moment. And it's not just one organization. And that's where my question is coming to. It's not just one organization that is popular, but has not been able to identify the path that others could think that, okay, I think we can follow this. So if we have these organizations and we have this problem, what could be the cause?
I think the cause is in Well, let me. I mean, this is not an insult on anybody, and it's not meant to be. It's just a statement of fact, a statement of reality. Uh, Lack of understanding of what the problem is.
Yeah.
Because if you understand what the problem is, you will be able to arrive at a possible solution. And that was why I used Awolowo as an example in 1945 and the formation of the action group. You know, in 1953, Awolowo made a statement at the House of Representatives saying that the fact that they are even sitting down talking about independence or self-determination shows that they don't know what they are doing. He was talking to Nigerian leaders. So we are human beings. Self is not. So why should we even be debating it? That was 1953. So why did he say that? And this is not a question of unnecessary glorification of Awolowo. When the anti-colonial movement collapsed, the Nigerian youth movement and all the rest, that was when he went to London to study law. And that was when he now said, okay, let me even look at this Nigeria, blah, blah, blah. So he looked at it and said, this is how the solution should be. And then he formed the Egbe Oduduwa. Okay. So again, if you now transpose it to today, the question is, we know where the problem is. The problem is in the center, the unitarization of Nigeria. Everything that has been going on since at least 1966. We all know it. We don't need to be running around. So the question is, somebody should have come up, or some people, or an organization should have come up with an answer. Okay, this is how we address this thing.
Right.
Okay. During the Abacha years, Nadeko came out and said, on June 12th we stand. This is the mandate. This is this. This is that. In the whole process and stuff, the Yoruba people met in Ibadan with Chief Bolage and all the rest. Then they took a decision, rightly or wrongly. There's those who disagreed with it. There are those who said, okay, this transition that is coming, we are going to participate without conditions. There was a big fight on the floor of that meeting. How can you participate in an election without a constitution and all that? But, they said, let us participate. It was that, that was a program.
Yeah.
Despite all the fighting, I'm talking about physical, there was somebody, High Chief Bayo Akinola from Ondo. He went to the podium to challenge Bola Ige. Hey, you can't do that on the podium. This was a high chief from Ondo with another high chief from SRK. So, but when they fought and blah, 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 they arrived at a decision. Okay, let us participate without conditions. Those who still refused, the militants, they went somewhere else and held their own meeting. So, but that decision bound even the person that went to challenge Bola Ige on the podium. So they went to the election, participated, and that was how AD became the political voice for Yoruba land. They did not say, even those who said they don't believe in participating without elections, they went to their little corner, held their own meeting, but they didn't come up with any alternative. So when the elections came, they had no choice but to join them. So that one became an example that a pathway was chosen. Whether we all agree with it or not is beside the point. Those who chose that pathway ensured that they made it happen. And they contested the election and they won. And the story, we know the story. But now what you see is this. You have so many organizations. None of them will say this is the way and we should follow it. Even if others are saying no, let them follow that way. The success and the potentials in it will draw people into that pathway. But that is what is lacking. Okay, this is not to criticize or insult anybody or anything, but let us look at the records. Afenifere, for example, when, like you said, and everyone knows it, anybody that is president, they will call on him, oh yeah, come and restructure. Oh yeah, come and restructure. It's not going to happen. And everyone that they have been calling upon since that day has not happened. Okay, so who is going to follow that pathway? So when you now say, Afenifere is saying this, and it has not happened, let us go in another direction. And then you now form another organization, but you have not provided an alternative for what Afenifere is doing. What you have simply done is to remove yourself from Afenifere, create another body, and you start shouting. And, nothing happens. Then somebody will come and tell you, hey, that man has collected money from politicians now. He's now singing a different tune. Maybe you are saying that because you didn't get part of the money, or maybe they didn't give it to you, or whatever reason. Then you go and form your own organization. So that is what is happening. That's why I said the main issue is, what is the way forward? The politicians have said they need elections. When we criticize the politicians, mostly, all we are saying is they are not performing, they are not doing this. But we are saying that the system is rotten. There's no way they can any performer. So all you need to do is to create a pathway to address that rottenness in that system. So, but nobody is doing that, because, of course, it is easy to abuse anybody now for doing this and that. So that is, if we can solve that problem, which, by the way, I believe the Yoruba Referendum Committee has solved, and this is not a promotion. I'm not promoting you. Of course, I represent the Yoruba Referendum Committee. Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is, we have a pathway. So the question is, and everything, this is not just boasting. When you now table it before them, okay, the only thing they are saying is, but the governors and the houses of assembly will not do it. So if we know they are not going to do it, the question is, what are we doing to compel them to do it? Abi? That would be the follow-up question. So, but you discover that because like I said, everybody just wants to be relevant. That's all I will say on that. But the main issue is that lack of a pathway that people are not ready to embrace, because it is so fashionable to be an agitator and a Yoruba nation advocate and this and that and that. So it's but God being on our side, we will be there. So I don't know whether I answered the question.
No, you've answered it. Thank you very much for your time. We'll go on a short heartbreak now. And when we come back, we'll now talk specifically about the Yoruba Referendum Committee petition
Okay.
and the progress so far.
Yeah.
So please do stay on with us.
Okay.
Right, thank you guys for staying on with us. I'm still with Alagba Femi Odedeyi. This segment, we're going to do it in our lingua franca. We've been speaking English for some time, talking about the Yoruba agitation, the groups and the lack of pathway. And on this part, of course, Mr. Solomon Oluwabi is put something there, and we'll take that one to Yoruba. I'm going to read it. It's in English, but I'm going to interpret it into Yoruba so that we can loop our people in as well. One of the things that I found out about Yoruba agitation is that we have the Yoruba masses. And when I talk about masses, I'm not talking about poor people, but I'm talking about the massive population that are right out there in the markets, in car parks, in our shopping mall. I mean, all everywhere. We have few people that comes on social media and engage. So, I mean, we have the student that will engage, come on social media, but we have a massive population that are right out there. And some of the things that we've discussed, there are some of this group that has connection with that population. So, and that's why it is quite so important for the people there to get the message of what Yoruba actually needs to do to get to the D-Day, if you can put it that way.
Yeah.
So we've seen, for instance, I'll take two examples when we talk about Chief Sunday Igboho. When he came out, the massive people that followed him, they are not the people that comes to social media to come and talk to you about politics. No, they were not those people. The people that followed him were the people that are the massive population out there, and those are the ones that we need to reach. And we will see that once the Igbo has been arrested, there has been a sort of it's gone a little bit quiet right there. And of course, we have another person that just came out, Pastor Bamide Bankole. When you read some of the comments on YouTube, where his talk was presented, you see people that are saying already, "Oh, another Orami has come," and this thing, because that's what the people know. And that's why a great responsibility hang on the shoulder of the leaders and the elders that are able to connect with both the educated and the other people there on the streets. Because that if the two people fuse together, that's how we can get there. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin yẹn wa ẹ̀yin tí mo ti sọ tí mo ta lóyìnbó tá à ń sọ náà ni pé gbogbo ẹ̀yin yẹn wa tí ẹ wà nílé yálà ẹ̀yin tí ẹ ń wo wá báyìí àbí ẹ̀yin tẹ́ sì tún máa wò wá àbí ẹ̀yin tó jẹ́ pé bóyá ní eré kíní ìwò ṣùgbọ́n àwọn tó rí wò ni wọ́n máa sọ fún yín pé nǹkan báyìí ló ń lọ lọ́wọ́. Ní tá à ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ni pé a kọ ìyàn ẹ̀yin tí ẹ wà nígboro, a ò kọ ìyàn yín kéré. Ohun tí a sì ń sọ ni wípé àwọn tí wọ́n jẹ́ àwọn àgbààgbà wa àti àwọn olórí wa ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá, yálà àwọn tó jẹ́ olórí wa nípa ti òṣèlú àbí àwọn tó jẹ́ olórí wa nípa ti bọ́yẹ̀sìn àti àwọn tó jẹ́ olórí wa ní àdúgbò, wípé àwọn ohun tí ó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ni àti gbé ìlànà èyí tí gbogbo wa tí a máa mọ̀ wípé ọ̀nà yìí la fẹ́ gbà láti gba òmìnira. Tí ẹ̀yin náà bá wo àwọn nǹkan tó ti ń ṣẹlẹ̀ níbi ẹnu ọjọ́ mẹ́ta yìí, ẹ rí i pé tá a bá pariwo pé Yorùbá nation now, tí a pariwo ńgbà tó bá fi tọ́sẹ̀ méjì tí wọ́n bá ti mú ìkan lára wa, ẹnu àwa yòókù yóò wọ wì títí tí èèyàn mi ò tún fi bọ́ síta. In tí kinní yìí ń fi hàn wá ní pé a ti gbé nǹkan kan sílẹ̀ tí ó jẹ́ pé ó gbòógì tí gbogbo wa lè dìwọ́ mọ́, nítorí pé tó bá jẹ́ pé a ti gbé nǹkan lẹ̀ ni kò sí bí wọ́n ṣe fẹ́ mú èèyàn kúrò láàrin wa pé ìjọba kí wọ́n àrẹ́sì ẹ̀ǹkà àbí kò ní in tí a ti gbé sílẹ̀ yẹn, àwọn tó kù ó ní wọ́n máa dojúkọ tí wọ́n fi máa tì dé èbúté ògo. Alàgbà Fẹ́mi Ọdẹ́dèyí wọ́n ṣàlàyé nígbà tá à ń sọ ti ọ̀rọ̀ olóyìnbó pé ní ayé ìgbà sẹ́yìn nígbà tí bàbá wa olóyè Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀ tí wọ́n gbé ẹgbẹ́ wọn sílẹ̀, ó ní àwọn nǹkan tí wọ́n ń pè ní àwọn olóyìnbó á pè pillars. Wọ́n jàgbé bíi tó jẹ́ bíi mẹ́rin wípé nǹkan báyìí là ń fẹ́. Nígbà tí wọ́n sì máa dá ẹgbẹ́ ọ̀hún sílẹ̀, gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n fi ọwọ́ sí ẹgbẹ́ ọ̀hún ni wọ́n mọ̀ pé nǹkan kan tá à ń fẹ́ nì. Tó fi jẹ́ pé nígbà tí wọ́n mú olóyè Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀ tí wọ́n jù wọ́n sẹ́wọ̀n, kò má dá iṣẹ́ yẹn dúró, iṣẹ́ yẹn tó ń tẹ̀síwájú lọ sí ni. N tí alàgbà Ọdẹ́dèyí ń sọ látàárọ̀ náà nìyẹn pé ibi tí ó yẹ kí àwa Yorùbá kí a dojúkọ ní ìsinyìí kì í ṣe pé bóyá nítorí pé èèyàn kan jẹ́ ẹni báyìí kákan mọ fò tẹ̀lé wọn láì jẹ́ pé a rí i pé kí ni wọ́n gbé sílẹ̀ tí ó máa jẹ́ ká rí ká lè gba ara wa kalẹ̀ ní oko ẹrú, èyí tí Yorùbá wà ní ìsìn ní ilẹ̀ wọn gangan tí kò ń ṣe ilẹ̀ àjèjì. Ọ̀gbẹ́ni mi mọ̀ bóyá alàgbà náà níyín, á fi gbogbo ẹ̀ pera wọn náà ni alàgbà Solomon Olúwabíyì, àwọn náà ti sọ̀rọ̀, wọ́n bá wa dá sí ètò. Lákọ̀ọ́kọ́ èyí tá a kọ́ sọ wọ́n ní ẹ wá o ẹ̀yin èèyàn tí a bá mọ̀ bá wọn dìbò, tó bá jẹ́ pé gbogbo àgbáyé ò ní dìbò, gbogbo Nàìjíríà tá a bá ní dìbò, ó dà bẹ́ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n tó bá jẹ́ pé àwọn apá kan ó dìbò àwọn ò ní dì, ó léwu o, nítorí wípé ibi tí ẹ bá fọwọ́ sí ẹ mọ̀ lè jà níbẹ̀ pé bó lẹ ṣe pín ẹran mi kéré. Wọ́n ní n tó yẹ ká ṣe náà ni pé ọ̀rọ̀ rẹfúrẹ́ndọ̀mù yìí ó mà ní ó yẹ kí a múra sí kí a jẹ́ kí àwọn pàápàá wọ́n dárúkọ ń bí pé grassroots ọ̀hún ó ní àwọn èèyàn wa tí wọ́n wà nígboro, ibẹ̀ ni a pọ̀ sí jù, àwọn èèyàn wa tó wà nígboro. Díẹ̀ làwa tá a wà lórí social media tá à ń ríra wa bá sọ̀rọ̀ báyìí, pé a ní wọ́n ṣiṣẹ́ papọ̀ pẹ̀lú àwọn tó wà nílé láti mọ̀ pé ẹ wá nǹkan báyìí ni a ṣe ń fẹ́, tó sì jẹ́ pé kò sí ní tó bá ṣẹlẹ̀ bóyá wọ́n mú èèyàn kan ní o àbí ẹlòmíín tó gbàjọba o, pé iṣu atẹnumọ́ yìí, wọ́n mà ní iṣu atẹnumọ́ ò kì í jóná, pé tá a bá tẹnumọ́ ní tá a ṣàǹfẹ́ ni a dẹ̀ rí i pé a ti ṣe rí. Nígbà tí wọ́n pariwo ti MK Abiola June 12 tí kinní ò ṣe, ẹ mọ̀ pé ariwo ẹ̀ ló mú kí ń gbòòyà ilé gbóná mọ́ ọ̀gágun IBB nígbà náà, òun láti kó lẹ̀ torí pé ó rí pé Yorùbá ò gbà, ó fi kó lẹ̀, wọ́n gbé ẹlòmíì wọlé, ẹni tó wà níbẹ̀ náà orí ìjà yẹn náà ló ti bá Yorùbá, tí Yorùbá sọ pé náà kíní yìí àgbàṣẹ títí tó fi wá di pé wọ́n wá wò pé ẹ wá ẹjẹ́ akúkú mú kan nu wọn. Nígbà tí MK Abiola sì mọ ẹjẹ́ mú kan nu wọn ká fi iwájú kó tó di pé ara àwọn èèyàn lọ́lẹ̀. Ara àwọn nǹkan tí wọ́n sọ náà nìyí. Ẹ má jẹ́ kí a dènà pẹ̀lú nítorí àsìkò wa. Ní tí alàgbà Solomon Olúwabíyì tí wọ́n fi sílẹ̀ náà ni wípé kò mọ̀ sí olórí ìlú kankan tí ó gbà pé kìlò torí òun tú. Wọ́n ní ó tó àsìkò pé kí àwa tá a jẹ́ ọmọ Nàìjíríà pátápátá àti olóṣèlú wa ni o àti àwọn oníṣòwò ni o àti kíní, àsìkò tó ká padà lọ sí ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ pẹ̀pẹ̀ láti lọ yanjú báwo la ṣe fẹ́ kí ìgbé ayé wa kó rí. Mo sì mú ọ̀rọ̀ náà wá síbi ìjọba tí wọ́n ń pè ní regional government tó ń jẹ́jọba tiwantiwa. Alàgbà wa náà Fẹ́mi Ọdẹ́dèyí àwọn náà ti sọ náà pé wọ́n fi Ethiopia wọ́n fi ṣàpèjúwe, wọ́n fi àwọn ìlú míì náà ṣàpèjúwe pé ìgbà tí àwọn ènìyàn mọ̀ gba àdúgbò wọn nípa ìjọba titara ẹni regional government, ìgbà tí ó ń bọ́ sí wọn lọ́wọ́ ni wọ́n mọ̀ tó lè gbé àwọn ìgbésẹ̀ kan. Bẹ́ẹ̀ náà sì ni níbi tí àwa tẹ́ ń wo yìí, OY Media Scotland ẹ rí i pé Scotland ló wà lábẹ́ ibi tá a wà yìí ní United Kingdom bó náà má ṣe rí mà nìyẹn àwọn ará Scotland wọ́n níjọba tiwọn ọlọ́pàá ti wá yàtọ̀ ó yàtọ̀ sí àwọn tó wà ní London àwọn tó wà ní London níjọba tiwọn àwọn tó wà ní Wales wọ́n ní ìjọba titi wọn àtàwọn tó wà ní Northern Ireland wọ́n ní ìjọba tiwọn kí wọ́n ṣètò wá ní ilé ìgbìmọ̀ àpapọ̀ tó wà ní Westminster ní London ní ọ̀dọ̀ wa níbí ọlọ́pàá wa àwa là ń yanjú ẹ̀ fúnra wa ọ̀rọ̀ pé à ń kàwé education certificate wa yàtọ̀ sí tí wọ́n fún wọn ní London ṣẹ́bẹ̀ pé ńgbà tó ti bọ́ sọ́wọ́ wa òun náà lálẹ́ wò pé òkè nǹkan báyìí tí a mọ̀ pé n tó jẹ́ tiwa tó ń dùn wá lọ́kàn o n tí a fẹ́ dojúkọ nìyí o òun lá dojúkọ tí a ó sì yanjú ẹ jẹ́ wọn á padà sọ́dọ̀ Alagba Femi Odedeyi ẹ ṣeun tí ẹ ti wà pẹ̀lú wa ní àtàrọ̀ kíní ọ̀hún parí lọ díẹ̀díẹ̀ náà nù ọ̀rọ̀ ìpèníjà tí à ń pè ní petition tí ó wà níta ẹ fi yé wa wípé ó ti dé ọwọ́ àwọn gómìnà àti àwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ House of Assembly ní gbogbo àwọn states tó wà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá state mẹ́fẹ̀ẹ̀fà tó wà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ sì fi yé wa wípé ó di ẹ̀kejì tí ẹ ó fi ránṣẹ́ sí wọn nígbà tí n táwọn èèyàn tọwọ́ bọ̀ ní orí petition tó pé 5,000 ẹ sẹ́ndì lẹ́tà sí wọn pé n tí aráàlú ń sọ rèé o nígbà tí ó tún pé 10,000 ẹ tún jù sí wọn pé ẹ wá n tí àwọn aráàlú ń sọ ni o àwọn aráàlú ò tí ì dákẹ́ o wọ́n sì ń sọ̀rọ̀ ìlọ́nà wípé referendum yìí pé ẹ jẹ́ ń wí tèmi pé ó mọ̀ di dandan ní tí àwọn ará Yorùbá tí wọ́n ń fẹ́ nì àwọn ará Òkè Ọya àwọn lè fẹ́ nǹkan míì àwọn tí ọ̀dọ̀ wa níbí ní ilẹ̀ Ìgbò àwọn lè jẹ́ pé nǹkan míì làwọn fẹ́ wípé ṣùgbọ́n ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ní ẹ má ṣòṣèlú tẹ́ fẹ́ ṣe o ṣùgbọ́n ní tí àwọn aráàlú sọ ni pé a fẹ́ dìbò ká sọ ní tí a fẹ́ kí kẹ́ni kálukú wa tí a ti tójú bọ́ la sọ pé nǹkan báyìí bẹ́ẹ̀mi ṣe fẹ́ ìjọba ọ̀dọ̀ mi ni bẹ́ẹ̀mi ṣe fẹ́ ìjọba ọ̀dọ̀ mi ni ẹni tó bá fẹ́ jọba pé kí àwọn darandaran kí wọ́n sì máa fọ́ ilé kí wọ́n máa jólé ná ẹni ó kọwọ́ síbẹ̀ pé èyí tèmi fẹ́ ní òbí mo ṣe fẹ́ kí ọjọ́ ọ̀la àwọn ọmọ títun tó wọ́n bóun ṣe fẹ́ kó rí nìyí o àwọn tí wọ́n sì ń wòye pé àwọn ò bá ìyà wá sáyé àwọn náà lè kọwọ́ bọ̀ pé ẹ wá èyí tèmi fẹ́ o ní ìjọba tí ó fún mi ní àlàáfíà tí màá lè sùn tí màá di ojú méjì pé n táwọn fẹ́ ni n tí Yorùbá Referendum Committee tí wọ́n sọ ni kí wọ́n á kúkú tari kíní ọ̀hún sí yín pé ibo la dé àti àwọn ẹgbẹ́ míì tí ẹ̀ ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ báwo ló ṣe ń lọ.
ẹ ṣé gan bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ ó ti di ẹ̀ẹ̀mejì tá a gbé ìwé yẹn fún àwọn ilé ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin ọ̀dọ̀ wa àtàwọn gómìnà wa a dẹ̀ ti bá ìkan àbí méjì sọ̀rọ̀ nù àwọn aṣòfin yẹn pé kí lẹ tiẹ̀ rí sí gbogbo ohun tá a fi ń ránṣẹ́ yìí so nǹkan tó ń láyé wa ni pé ṣẹ̀mọ̀ òṣèlú ni wọ́n á sọ̀rọ̀ pẹ̀lú ẹnu mẹ́ta náà fi máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ but nínú mẹ́tẹ̀ẹ̀ta yẹn à find aggregate pé òkè kí ni ọ̀gbẹ́ni yìí ń sọ so nǹkan tó ń láyé wa ni pé ọwọ́ àwọn èèyàn ló wà ipe bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan yẹn pé grassroots àti àwọn alàgbà tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ grassroots lẹ́ẹ̀kan àti kìíní pé àwa tá à ń ṣe program báyìí lórí social media ìyẹn náà dá lọ́nà tiẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n bá a ṣe máa rí àwọn grassroots yẹn tí wọ́n ní access sí gbogbo ohun táwa ní access sí ìyẹn ló wá ṣe pàtàkì ibi tọ́rọ̀ wá wà nìyẹn so wípé táwọn èèyàn wa tán bá sowọ́ kì í ṣe lórí petition àti wá kúrò petition yẹn ṣì wà ń bẹ̀ but àti ní a máa gbé ìgbésẹ̀ míì tó yàtọ̀ sí tó tún máa mú petition yẹn tó máa bí ọ̀nà a step ahead sorry o mi mọ̀ kí ni Yorùbá yẹn tó máa jẹ́ kó tì síwájú ọ̀nà yẹn náà ni a ní òkè a wá sọ pé ìbò ń bọ̀ ní Ọ̀ṣun àti Èkìtì ní 2022 of course gbogbo ẹ̀ yí mọ́ 2023 so a wá fẹ́ ní a máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìpolongo láàárín àwọn èèyàn wa ní Ọ̀ṣun àti Èkìtì kan wá máa béèrè lọ́wọ́ àwọn tó fẹ́ díje yẹn kí ni ìyẹn mo fi gọ́vnà Ọ̀ṣun state example lẹ́ẹ̀kan rẹ̀ pé kí ni orí sọsọ́rọ̀ tó wà nílẹ̀ yes or no tí ẹ simple wípé ó ti wà ń bẹ̀ kò ní ìdá tí sọ fún wa pé tẹ bá dìbò fún mi màá lọ ṣe ó wà ń bẹ̀ nísìn ó dẹ̀ tún fẹ́ dìbò míì so wà nídìí kíní Èkìtì àwọn yẹn sì lè máa fẹ́ ní tẹ bá dìbò fún mi kíní kan but gbogbo wọn tá máa sọ fún nídìí àti débẹ̀ kẹ tó sọ pé nǹkan báyìí ìtẹ̀dúró lé lórí ni so ìyẹn là ń ṣe la máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ kí n put ẹ pé láti get àwọn grassroots at least ní ibi méjì yẹn ká fi bẹ̀rẹ̀ wò of course gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ló máa affect nítorí bí mo ṣe sọ ó tún wà connected pẹ̀lú 2023 so gbogbo àwọn tán bá láwọn fẹ́ jẹ president ní Yorùbá kò tí ì sẹ́ni tó sọnù wọn but anybody tó bá sọnù wọn pé òun fẹ́ ṣe president a máa gbé síwájú ẹ̀ níta gbangba ṣó fẹ́ ṣe àbó ṣe lórí ọ̀rọ̀ a mọ̀ pé president ló ń jà fún but tó bá fohùn ẹ sí pé káwọn houses of assembly ṣe déédéé náà ni ò ní dàtí di president kó tó fohùn ẹ sí nǹkan tó máa ṣe ń bì so gbogbo yẹn ó wà ń bẹ pé tá máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ lágbára Ọlọ́run títí tá bá wọnú ọdún tó ń bọ̀ yẹn a dẹ̀ wá ń pe àwọn ẹgbẹ́ míì à ń bá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ pé ẹ wá ẹ jájọ ṣe kinní yìí ọ̀rọ̀ ń lọ lórí ẹ̀ àwọn tó máa ṣe àṣe àwọn tí ó dẹ̀ ní ṣe ò ní ṣe but ìgbàgbọ́ wa ní pé bó ti hùn kó kéré tó èyí tó mátà jù ni kó ti wà nílẹ̀ kó ti dé àárín àwọn èèyàn wa káwọn èèyàn wa dẹ̀ lè máa fọwọ́ sí openly pé nǹkan tá à ń fẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ àwọn now ká ní irú ibi tí ọ̀rọ̀ understanding ti ń wá nìyẹn gbogbo agitation tó ń lọ àti gbogbo ṣe mọ̀ pé ọ̀tọ̀ ni ká jáde síta ká ní nǹkan tá a fẹ́ lélẹ̀ ọ̀tọ̀ ni ká kàn jáde síta ká kàn máa sọ pé irú aláǹṣe rally Yorùbá Nation now tá a bá dé rally yẹn kí la máa ń sọ ń bẹ̀ we want Yoruba Nation now we want this we want that we want that Yoruba Nation kìíní kan oríṣiríṣi slogan that is it slogan kan ló máa mú Yoruba Nation wá ẹ láti ní ìgbésẹ̀ tó máa mú wá so tá a bá dé rally yẹn tá a bá sọ pé a ṣe rally o a fẹ́ kí wọ́n ṣe referendum ní state ká ní wọ́n ṣe rally l'Óṣogbo lénìí wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe referendum l'Óṣogbo ní Ọ̀ṣun state o demand yẹn ó wà nílẹ̀ wọn ò lè run away from it so ìyẹn irú nǹkan tá à ń sọ nìyẹn wípé irú ìgbésẹ̀ tó yẹ ká gbé nìyẹn tá a bẹ̀rẹ̀ intend láti gbé so tí irú ẹ̀ bá wáyé ọ̀rọ̀ rally yẹn ti kúrò ní sloganeering mọ́ ó ti di pé ilé kí náà ti ń pè house of assembly gan-an tẹ̀ ti máa ṣe rally ọ̀hún gan sef nǹkan tá a fẹ́ lélẹ̀ ẹ̀kú fún wa àtẹ̀tún fún wọn ní bíìlì yẹn bá a ṣe send ẹ̀ sí wọn privately àtúnná sí wọn publicly ẹni tó àádẹ́ lọ sí ọ́fíìsì ẹni tó fẹ́ díje ìbò campaign officer pé òun rèé o kí lórí sọ ń pa ẹ̀ the worst tán máa ṣe wọ́n lè lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwọn kan lé wọn wọ́n lè sọ pé àwọn ò ṣe o ìyẹn ò tí ì jẹ́ problem ẹ jẹ́ kán ṣe of course àwọn ò bẹ́ẹ̀ nìkan kan jà á dẹ̀ sọ pé a máa gbógun tí anybody tán bá lé everybody right but àti register nǹkan tá a fẹ́ ṣe ohun tí yẹn dẹ̀ ṣe pàtàkì ni pé nígbà tá a bá ti rẹ́gísítà ẹ̀ tí wọn ò bá ṣe ìyẹn ti fún wa ní agbára láti ṣe nǹkan mi ní sọ jù yẹn lọ lórí yẹn nítorí nígbà tá a bá ẹni ẹ jẹ́ representative wa a dẹ̀ sọ pé nǹkan tá a fẹ́ ṣe ni ẹ dẹ̀ fún wa láyè láti ṣe ó mì ní pé ti lose legitimacy even no matter bí wọ́n dìbò fún yín bí wọ́n dìbò fún yín tara yín lẹ̀ ń ṣe oríṣiríṣi nǹkan dẹ̀ wà tá a lè gbé ṣe láti àdírẹ́sì ibẹ̀ yẹn tó bá dé point yẹn but the thing is káti wọ́n níbi pẹlẹbẹ kọ́ láti máa ṣe ọdún tí èèyàn bá mọ̀ọ́lẹ̀ níbi pẹlẹbẹ ó lè má káyàn lẹ́nu ó lè bù lórí kó jẹ́ tán dáadáa but ẹ jẹ́ ká ṣe kinní yìí bó ṣe ń ṣe kó lè rí bó ṣe rí káwọn ìjọba wa nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ jẹ́ ká put wọn dé point tán máa fẹnu ara wọn sọ pé àwọn ò ṣe ẹ má jẹ́ ká máa fún wọn ní excuse pé wọn ò ní ṣe ẹ jẹ́ ká gbé kà wọ́n láyà ẹ jẹ́ kán wá sọ pé eléyìí o kò rí bẹ́ẹ̀ o kò ṣeé ṣe o ibi tí ọ̀rọ̀ ti máa dùn sọ nìyẹn so gbogbo just like bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan yẹn kánírù yẹn wà ńlẹ̀ tán bá gbé anybody ẹni tó gbé gan á mọ̀ pé òun ṣìyàn gbé nítorí a kàn sọ fún ni pé àjọ lọ fà yẹn nílé ẹjọ́ ẹni tó gbé ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀rọ̀ tó ń lọ yìí kò kúrò ńbẹ̀ ẹni tó gbé gan tó bá délé ẹjọ́ á rojọ́ ẹnu ẹ̀ pé ohun tó ń béèrè fún nìyẹn bí ilé ẹjọ́ ṣe máa wá sọ fún yín pé kò ṣeé ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ of course ilé ẹjọ́ lè sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ o but ṣe mọ̀ n tí mo pè ní dialectics lẹ́ẹ̀kan nìyẹn pé this is a struggle a contest so olúkálùkù á máa devise strategy tiẹ̀ bí gbogbo nǹkan ṣe ń lọ but as it is kò tí ì sí táwa máa base ẹ̀ lé lórí tí ò bá sí referendum yẹn ń bẹ̀ so where we are in a nutshell nìyẹn pé engage other individuals and groups pé ẹ wá ọ̀nà táwa rò pé ó yẹ ká gbé gbà léléyìí o ẹ jẹ́ ká ronú lórí ẹ̀ ká dẹ̀ ṣe o at the other hand àwa náà dẹ̀ tún ní àwọn grassroots yẹn a máa rí tiwọn wọ́n tẹ̀ àwọn groups míì tẹ̀lé wa wọn tẹ̀lé wa o àwa máa rí tiwọn wípé ọ̀nà tí ó yẹ ká gbé gbà lélẹ̀ so tá a bá la fẹ́ ṣe rally a fẹ́ ṣe anything nǹkan kan tá a máa demand nìyẹn pé Yorùbá referendum láàárín àwa Yorùbá nìkan ni wàá sọ̀rọ̀ Nàìjíríà o táwọn Ìgbò bá fẹ́ ṣe tiwọn káwọn náà lọ ṣe tiwọn kan lọ máa ṣe láàárín ara wọn so ibi tí a bá ọ̀rọ̀ dé nísìnyí.
ẹ ṣeun lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ mo mọ̀ pé ti mú ẹnu díẹ̀ bá àwọn ẹgbẹ́ míì tí wọ́n tún wà tó bá jẹ́ pé a lè béèrè pé ìhà wo ni àwọn ẹgbẹ́ míì tí ẹ̀ ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ nípa a mọ̀ pé gbogbo àlè sùn ká kọrí síbi kankan náà fún àwọn ẹgbẹ́ míì tẹ́ ti ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ nípa fífi ọwọ́ sí ọ̀rọ̀ petition yìí àbí kì í ṣe láti darapọ̀ mẹ́gbẹ́ ṣùgbọ́n láti káwọn náà darapọ̀ mọ́ àti tìsíwájú àti àwọn èèyàn bóyá wọ́n ní èèyàn nílé wọ́n ní èèyàn nígboro àbí wọ́n tiẹ̀ léèyàn láàrin àwọn aṣojú wa ní ilé ìgbìmọ̀ tá à ń sọ kí ni àtàwọn ẹgbẹ́ náà kọ sí.
n tó wà níbẹ̀ ni pé púpọ̀ náà àwọn ẹgbẹ́ yẹn nǹkan tó máa láyé púpọ̀ nù wọn náà ti fọwọ́ sí petition yẹn as wọ́n ṣe jẹ́ pé òkè èmi lágbájá mo fọwọ́ sí kinní èmi lágbájá mo fọwọ́ sí kinní which is good which is okay a dẹ̀ appreciate a dẹ̀ máa ń sọ fún ẹ pa appreciate ṣùgbọ́n n tá wa ń sọ ni pé ẹ jẹ́ ká tún wá gbé kọjá abẹ yẹn ipe ìwọ lágbájá tán bá rí ẹ ń ta aṣojú ẹgbẹ́ báyìí ló jẹ́ àbí tán bá rí ẹ ń ta so wá aṣojú ẹgbẹ́ yẹn kó wá fọwọ́ sí ní gbangba ipe ẹgbẹ́ wa o àfaramọ́ kìíní yìí o nǹkan tá a fẹ́ kí àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ aṣòfin wa ṣe leléyìí o as ẹgbẹ́ now ti petition yẹn is essentially individuals àti a dẹ̀ rí so many ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ tí wọ́n ní àwọn ti ṣe àwọn ti fọwọ́ sí àwọn ti ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀ fine no problem lórí ẹ̀ àwa náà fọwọ́ sí àsọmọ ẹgbẹ́ Yorùbá Referendum Committee so àwa ń sọ ní ìsìn pé ọ̀rọ̀ ti wá dé ibi tó jẹ́ pé ẹgbẹ́ yín ẹgbẹ́ olúkálùkù wá fọwọ́ sí publicly so táfẹ́nifẹ́re bá jáde lọ́la kan sọ pé yes okay gbogbo tá a tẹ̀ tí ń sọ látijọ́ yìí o ọ̀nà rèé o Yorùbá referendum la fẹ́ ṣe o ìyẹn yàtọ̀ sí kí bàbá Adébánjọ sọ pé àwọn ti bá wa fọwọ́ sí petition yes a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn ẹ bá wa fọwọ́ sí petition but ẹ jáde mo kàn fi bàbá Adébánjọ ṣe example ni o torí bàbá gbogbo wa náà jẹ́ nísìn so bẹ́ẹ̀ dẹ̀ ni gbogbo àwọn bàbá Akíntóyè náà whatever it is tó ń ṣe kinní pé okay àwọn ní problem kí wọ́n pọ̀ eléyìí o ibi táwọn ń lọ leléyìí o ibi tá a fẹ́ leléyìí o ibi tá a fẹ́ leléyìí so gbogbo wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn kì í ṣe kó jẹ́ àwọn bàbá yẹn ló máa sọ̀rọ̀ but ẹni tó whoever it is tó bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ on behalf of their ẹgbẹ́ ìyẹn ní ìgbésẹ̀ gbé nìsín pé kí àwọn ẹgbẹ́ yẹn ká wá parapọ̀ ká wá sọ pé nǹkan tá a fẹ́ leléyìí ìyẹn máa ṣòro láti túká nítorí pé until tán bá tú referendum yẹn ká wọn lè tú ẹgbẹ́ yẹn ká kì í ṣe pa ní ká fọ́ọ̀mù ẹgbẹ́ mi o like you said Radley said àdẹ́gbẹ́ mi sílẹ̀ a kàn sọ pé iṣẹ́ yìí gbogbo wa la wà ń díẹ̀ so tán bá tẹ̀ láwọn fẹ́ tú ká ta ní ká tẹ̀ sẹ́ pé wọ́n gbowó fẹ́ nìkan ó lóun ò ṣe mọ́ ṣe bí wá kúrò ní á lóun ò ṣe tá à ń ṣe mọ́ ni kò ní sọ pé nǹkan tá à ń ṣe ò dáa mọ́ even tó bá sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ àdẹ sọ pé okay fine tí ò bá ti dáa lọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀ máa lọ náà kò sẹ́ni tó dì ẹ̀ mú ṣùgbọ́n ibi tá à ń lọ lélẹ̀ so àwa believe pé tíyẹn bá ti wà ń bẹ̀ tí gbogbo wa dẹ̀ fọwọ́ sí ìjà tó bá nǹkan máa bára wọn jà lábẹ́lé nínú whichever ẹgbẹ́ tán bá wà that is mi ní sọ pé normal it's not good but well ó ń happen so káwọn ẹgbẹ́ yẹn máa ṣe tiwọn but ìtò matter jù tó tẹ̀ máa help wọn láti resolve problem ní ẹgbẹ́ wọn ó ní ìta ń sọ yìí so everybody tí gbogbo ẹgbẹ́ bá fọwọ́ sí openly ẹ jẹ́ kí àwọn tá a gbé síwájú ẹ̀ kan láwọn ò ṣe ẹ jẹ́ kán fẹnu ara wọn sọ ìgbà yẹn ni àwa ó ṣèyàn láàánú ni ẹ tẹ́ bá rántí nígbà tí gbogbo wàhálà Sunday Igboho yẹn bẹ̀rẹ̀ no before then tí gọ́vnà Akérédolú ní níbo làwa Yorùbá tá a ti jókòó papọ̀ tá a sọ pé it's a simple matter okay o àti ìjókòó papọ̀ ó yẹ jẹ́ ká tiẹ̀ wá jókòó papọ̀ ṣe é pé Akérédolú ò ní lè sá padà mọ́ lórí ọ̀rọ̀ yẹn gbà yẹn ṣé mo béèrè question ni answer lélẹ̀ ìjókòó wa ní tá a fẹ́ lélẹ̀ kó wá ní ẹ má jẹ́ ká jókòó mọ́ ìtìjú díẹ̀ ni kò ṣe ń gbà yẹn so nǹkan tá à ń sọ nìyẹn wípé gbogbo ẹ̀ tá a bá ti ní ọ̀nà yẹn níṣe ló dàbí ká sọ pé okay o a ti decide for whatever reason pé the only way tí Yorùbá lè fi gbára ẹ lẹ̀ ni ká jagun ṣe é pé the next thing ni pé ó yá ẹ recruit àwọn ọmọ ogun ẹni tó bá fẹ́ jagun á bọ́ sínú ogun yẹn so tí wọ́n bá mú kọ̀mándà ogun yẹn tán lọ yanjú ẹ̀ ṣe é pé àwọn ọmọ ogun wà ń bẹ̀ wọ́n á yan kọ̀mándà míì wọ́n á dẹ̀ máa lọ so bẹ́ẹ̀ náà leléyìí pé gbogbo àwọn tó ní Yorùbá ò ní one voice wọn ní kíní kan wọn wà united n tó máa unite wa eléyìí o the fact pé they unite behind it kò mí ni pé a ní differences wa nǹkan tá a kàn sọ ní pé eléyìí ló máa tẹ̀ fún wa láyè láti resolve differences tá a bá ní láàrin ara wa nínú ilé wa so that is the essence so ibi tá a wà nìyẹn nísìn wípé bá a ṣe máa engage àwọn grassroots bá a ṣe máa engage wọn àwọn tó ń bá dẹ̀ fẹ́ join wa láti ṣe tá a ti kàn sí tó ń dẹ̀ ń gbọ́ tá à ń sọ yìí káwọn náà kan contact yín kan fọwọ́ sí bá dẹ̀ mọ́ bá ṣe máa bá a ṣe máa ṣe kán dẹ̀ mú ìmọ̀ràn tiwọn náà wá ìjà gbogbo wa nìjà yìí so kò sí kinní ń bẹ̀.
bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ẹ ṣeun lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ alàgbà Fẹ́mi Ọ̀dẹ́dẹ̀yí gbọ́ ẹ̀yin èèyàn wa òun náà ni ẹ̀ ń gbọ́ bí ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì òun ni alàgbà Fẹ́mi Ọ̀dẹ́dẹ̀yí máa ń darapọ̀ mọ́ wa láti tún bá wa wo àwọn tó ń lọ nígboro àti bí ìjàgbára Yorùbá bó ṣe ń lọ sí lẹ́ẹ̀kọ̀ọ̀kan náà a máa rọra tẹsẹ̀ gẹ̀rẹ̀ ká tún wo àwọn nǹkan míì tí ó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lágbàáyé pàápàá àwọn ètò jẹ́ pé a lè fi kọ́ ọgbọ́n nípa tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá in tó ń lọ lọ́wọ́ kì í ṣe ilẹ̀ Yorùbá nìkan o ẹ gbọ́ tí wọ́n dakọ̀ Ethiopia lẹ́ẹ̀kan ẹ̀yin tẹ́ bá ti ń gbọ́ wa tẹ́lẹ̀ náà ẹ ti gbọ́ àti dakọ̀ Catalonia àtàwọn kan Southern Cameroon àwọn náà wà ń bẹ̀ kì í ṣe ilẹ̀ Yorùbá nìkan ó ní ó ń ja ìjàngbara lọ́wọ́ ṣùgbọ́n bí wọ́n ti sọ tá a bá ẹja ṣe bó ṣe yẹ kí a ṣe kó bàa lè rí bó ṣe yẹ kó rí wọ́n ní ẹ kú iṣẹ́ takuntakun Comrade Ọlálẹ́kan Ọ̀dẹ́dẹ̀yí àwọn ni wọ́n fi yàn ránṣẹ́ ni wọ́n fi ránṣẹ́.
ẹ ṣe comrade ó ti pẹ́ tá a ti gbúrò wọn díẹ̀.
mo tún ní alàgbà Táíwò Fádébí mo rò pé mo gbà dáadáa àwọn náà ní pé ẹ kú iṣẹ́ takuntakun adẹ ní olúwa ìyáàfin Olúwatóyìn Ọlábísí Ọmọrògà àwọn náà bẹ ní orí afẹ́fẹ́ tí wọ́n bá wà àti Lega Entertainment àwọn náà bá wọ́n tẹ̀lé wa wọ́n wo tá à ń ṣe lọ́wọ́ à ń kásẹ̀ ètò náà nìyẹn o ṣe mọ̀ pé wọ́n ní kí adití bá gbọ́ràn òun náà ni a ti máa ń tẹ ọ̀rọ̀ àsọ̀rọ̀ àtúntún sọ káàdì tí ó lè gbọ́ ká lè gbọ́ dáadáa náà ni a pé àwọn gómìnà wa àtàwọn olóṣèlú wa a pé wọ́n ní adití o ṣùgbọ́n à ń sọ pé kí wọ́n láì tí wọ́n gbọ́ ohun tí à ń sọ àwọn náà rí i pé bí ìlú ṣe rí ní ìsinyìí tí wọ́n bá máa jáde in tí a kì í ṣe ní ayé àtijọ́ pé èèyàn ń jáde ó wá di dandan kó kó sójà mọ́ra èèyàn kan tiẹ̀ ṣe àpèjúwe nǹkan kan ó ní ilé nígbà tí ẹ máa rí àwọn tí wọ́n kọ́lé wọ́n ní ọlọ́dẹ wọ́n ní ajá fẹ́ǹsì wọn ga wọ́n fi bá bàyà security sórí ẹ̀ wíńdò lé wọn gan àtìlẹ̀kùn irin ni wípé ṣé ìyẹn gan lásán kò tó kí àwọn èèyàn ronú pé ẹ wá
olúwa ayé mi
àwọn ìlú míì wà tí wọ́n ń wá tó jẹ́ pé kì í ṣe pé wọ́n kórìn bolé tí á dàbí ìgbà tí ẹni tó bá ti dé lọ ẹ̀wọ̀n rí tó bá ti rí bí ẹ̀wọ̀n rí yóò rí pé bí wọ́n ṣe bá ń ṣe wíńdò ẹ̀wọ̀n nìyẹn tí wọ́n máa kórìn bọ̀ kí àwọn èèyàn má lè jáde àwọn tí wọ́n jólóṣèlú gan tí wọ́n bá máa jáde wọn ò lè dá jáde lásán wọ́n máa gba security ọlọ́pàá army ọlọ́pàá ò sì tó fáráàlú army ò tó fáráàlú ṣùgbọ́n àwọn náà máa ń pé láti dáàbò bo ara wọn àwọn àtúnpọ̀ ọlọ́pàá mọ́ra so ọ̀rọ̀ náà là ń bá wọn sọ wípé ó yẹ kí ìgbé ayé wa ó yẹ kó dára ju èyí tí a wà lọ nǹkan kan sì wà tí mo fi ṣe àpèjúwe pàápàá tí n bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa Yorùbá ní inú ìlú Nàìjíríà torí kìí ṣe ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà mọ́ báyìí ìlú Nàìjíríà ni pé nígbà bàbá wa Ọbáfẹ́mi Awólọ́wọ̀ nígbà náà lọ́hùn tí ó fẹ́ ṣe ẹ̀kọ́ ọ̀fẹ́ tí àwọn yòókù ní pé àkíní yìí kò ṣeé ṣe bàbá mà ṣe nígbà bàbá ṣe tán àwọn tí wọ́n wà ní òkè ọ̀yà àtàwọn tó wà lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ wa ń bí ṣé báwọn náà wọ́n wá jàǹfààní ẹ̀ wọ́n tún ṣe ẹ̀dẹ̀ àwọn náà lọ ṣe lọ́dọ̀ wọn ìtorí ìdí èyí náà la fi sọ pé tí Yorùbá bá wà ní àyè ara wa tí a ṣe ń táwa bá mọ̀ ọ́n ṣe kì í ṣàwa nìkan ni yóò ṣe àǹfààní fún ọ yóò ṣe àǹfààní fún àwọn yòókù bẹ́ẹ̀ náà sì ni àwọn yòókù náà tí wọ́n bá ṣe tí wọ́n mọ̀ ọ́n ṣe tí wọ́n ṣe dáadáa àwọn nìkan kọ́ ni ó jẹ́ àǹfààní fún ó máa jẹ́ àǹfààní fún tiwa náà ṣùgbọ́n irú ìjọba èyí tí à ń ṣe lọ́wọ́ báyìí ó mú èèyàn kan lọ́wọ́ sẹ́yìn ni láti dúró di ẹnìkejì ẹnìkejì ọ̀nà sì ni kò níbi lọ. Màá fún yín ní ààyè gẹ́gẹ́ bí a ṣe máa ń ṣe bá àwọn èèyàn wa sọ̀rọ̀ àti àwọn olóṣèlú ni o àti àwọn èèyàn wa gan tá à ń pè pé ẹ dá sí kinní yìí àwọn ẹgbẹgbẹ́ ọ̀nà ẹ̀dẹ̀ bá wa tún sọ fáwọn èèyàn wa náà wípé kí wọ́n má sọ̀rọ̀ ìtì náà nítorí pé tíjà gbàgbára bá ń lọ ẹ̀kọ́ kan máa wà tí yóò dàbẹ̀ pé nǹkan fẹ́ fà sẹ́yìn ṣùgbọ́n kí wọ́n má sọ̀rọ̀ ìtì náà kí wọ́n jẹ́ ká ṣe bó ṣe yẹ ká ṣe kó lè rí bó ṣe yẹ kó rí.
Ẹ ṣé o iṣẹ́ ńlá gan nìyẹn. Ibi tí màá ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ náà nìyẹn pé ká má sọ̀rọ̀ ìtì nù wípé ìrètí yẹn ni agbára tí a ní, gbogbo wa ni mò ń sọ yìí o, ìrètí yẹn lágbára tá a ní láti lè ṣe nǹkan tá a fẹ́ ṣe, torí tí ò bá sí ìrètí yẹn ń bẹ á wá di pé kí tiẹ̀ ní gbogbo kinní kí là ń ṣe gan sef, but ìrètí tó wà ń bẹ ó ní í ṣe pẹ̀lú pé ibi tá a ti ń bọ̀ àti nǹkan tá a fẹ́, pé ìgbésí ayé wa ò yẹ kó rí báyìí, ó lè dájú báyìí lọ nítorí pé ó ti dájú bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ tẹ́lẹ̀. A dẹ̀ rí gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní gbogbo ayé. So nǹkan tí màá wá sọ ń bẹ̀ ni pé báwọn Yorùbá náà ṣe máa ń sọ pé iyán di àtúngún ọbẹ̀ di àtúnṣe, wípé kì í ṣe pé èèyàn sọ pé bóyá nǹkan tí Ìgbòho ṣe dà bí ò dáa àbí tẹ́nìkan ṣe dà bí tẹ́nìkan ò ṣe ò dáa o, bọ̀ tí pé ìgbà tẹ́nìkan irú ìgbésẹ̀ tó gbé tá a ríbi tó ń yọrí sí, a dẹ̀ mọ̀ pé ṣẹ̀mọ̀ politics tún wà nù tó ń ṣe wọ́n ní Benin àti Nàìjíríà àti gbogbo yẹn wà níbẹ̀, but kí yẹn má jẹ́ ìrẹ̀wẹ̀sì, kó má di ìrẹ̀wẹ̀sì fún wa pé wọ́n mú Ìgbòho ẹ wo nǹkan tó ṣẹlẹ̀ sí, therefore èmi ò ní ṣe nǹkan tó yẹ kí n ṣe. Ẹ má jẹ́ ká rò bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn, that's one. Ẹ má jẹ́ ká tún rò pé wọ́n ti mú Ìgbòho èmi ló kàn láti jáde láti sọ pé èmi náà lè ṣe irú nǹkan báyìí. Irú nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn kì í ṣe ọ̀nà tó dáa láti gbà. Nǹkan tó yẹ ká wò ní pé kí bá a ṣe ń wò láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ kínní pé ókè o nínú gbogbo ohun tó ti ń ṣẹlẹ̀ yìí o, ọ̀nà wo ni a ti ń gbé gbà láti kátẹ̀mú 1999 tá a ti kùnà tá a fi lè continue mọ́. Tá a bá ti lè solve problem yẹn, ìyẹn là ń pè ní pathway, ọ̀nà wo la fẹ́ gbégbà, ọ̀nà pé n tó mú wa kùnà lélẹ̀, kì í ṣe pé tìtorí pé bàbá kan ṣe kinní kan àbẹ́nìkan gbowó lọ́wọ́ ẹnìkan la ṣe kùnà. Láti 1999 yẹn sí 2003 at least kò sọ́nà kankan tá a gbà ní. Gbogbo ẹ̀ dàrú mọ́ everybody lọ́wọ́, everybody kan sá káàkiri ńgbà yẹn ni. So n tó yẹ ká wá wò ní pé ọ̀nà wo ló yẹ ká gbé nǹkan yìí gbà ní ìsìn, débi tó jẹ́ pé àwọn olóyìnbó máa ń ní individuals play a role in history. Àsìkò wà fún olúkálùkù láti ṣe ipa tiẹ̀ nínú ìgbésí ayé àwọn ọmọ èèyàn, ṣùgbọ́n ẹni yẹn kọ́ ló máa determine ìgbà tóun. In other words, it is individuals play a role in history, but it is not the individual that will determine the time and the role that he will play. So tá a bá ti mọ̀ yẹn, ìyẹn mì ní pé gbogbo wa la ní ipa tá a máa kó nú ẹ̀. Ipa tá a dẹ̀ máa kó yẹn kì í ṣe pé a kàn máa dédé jí láàárọ̀ ọjọ́ kan á ní ó yá ìgbà tèmi lélẹ́yìí, èmi náà fẹ́ ṣe báyìí. Circumstances tó wà nílẹ̀ ló máa determine role wo ló yẹ kó olúkálùkù play. So tá a bá sọ pé okay o, circumstances wo la wà, a mọ gbogbo tó ti ń ṣẹlẹ̀, a rí ọ̀nà gbéyọ kinní kan, so agbára wo lèmi ní, mo lówó lọ́wọ́ for example, mi wá mọ bí mo ṣe fẹ́ gbé gbà, so eléyìí ní àwọn èèyàn lẹ́yìn tó dẹ̀ ń ṣe ó yá ìwọ tó léèyàn lẹ́yìn wá owó rèé, ṣe báyìí, báwo la ṣe máa ṣe. Eléyìí ò tiẹ̀ kò lówó, kò ní èèyàn lẹ́yìn, ṣùgbọ́n ó lọ́gbọ́n lórí, ó yá gbé ọgbọ́n ẹ̀ sílẹ̀. ẹlòmíì dẹ̀ wà ó lówó ó léèyàn ó lọ́gbọ́n ó ní gbogbo ẹ̀ ìyẹn ò wá mí ní pé wàá ní tìtorí ní gbogbo ẹ̀ wàá máa fi yan gbogbo àwọn tó kù jẹ́ pé wẹ̀ tí ò bá sí mi ń bẹ̀ kò sí tó lè ṣẹlẹ̀. So nǹkan tí ó gbà nìyẹn tá a bá ní à ń ṣe ìjàngbara à ń ṣe kinní pé ibi tí rètí dẹ̀ ti ń wá nìyẹn wípé olúkálùkù nípa tó máa kó at a particular time. The question ọ̀rọ̀ tó wà nílẹ̀ ìbéèrè tó yẹ ká wá dáhùn ni pé bí nǹkan ṣe rí nìsín ọ̀nà wo ni a fẹ́ gbé. Ẹni tó lóun fẹ́ dìbò gan á bí léèrè òkè ló fẹ́ dìbò ó fẹ́ ṣe kinní gbogbo ìbò tẹ́ ti ń dì látijọ́ ẹ̀ kí làbá yọrí ẹ̀ tó ṣe wá jẹ́ pé tó bá rò pé tíwọ́ bá débẹ̀ ó máa yàtọ̀ kò sẹ́ni tó lè dáhùn béèrè yẹn nù wọn torí kò ṣeé dáhùn but kò sẹ́ni tó ń bi wọ́n nǹkan tó wọ́n ń sọ fún wọn ní pé ò lè ṣe àní ṣe gbá àní ṣàwo yá àwọn èèyàn lè máa sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n ẹ jẹ́ ká wá bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí lo ọgbọ́n tọ́lọ́run fún wa láti béèrè àwọn ìbéèrè tó yẹ ká béèrè and the fundamental ìbéèrè ní pé ọ̀nà wo ni ọ̀nà àbáyọ nínú nǹkan tó wà nílẹ̀ yìí ọ̀nà wo kì í ṣe pé ká kàn sọ pé a fẹ́ yọ nú ẹ̀ gbogbo wa la fẹ́ yọ nú ẹ̀ ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀nà wo la fẹ́ gbé gbà tá a bá ti lè dáhùn ìbéèrè yẹn tá a bá dẹ̀ máa dáhùn ìbéèrè yẹn kì í ṣe orí afẹ́fẹ́ báyìí láti máa dáhùn ẹ̀ ó ní bá a ṣe máa dáhùn ẹ̀ ohun tí màá tún rọ àwọn èèyàn wa ní pé tá a bá wà lórí afẹ́fẹ́ on any media anywhere tá a bá wà ẹ jẹ́ ká máa lò ó láti fi educate ara wa ni kì í ṣe pé láti bring ẹnìkan down àbí láti promote ẹnìkan àbí láti expose lágbájá àbí láti bú tẹ̀mẹ̀dù ẹ jẹ́ ká nítorí àwọn èèyàn wa ò mọ a lot of things even lórí ọ̀rọ̀ jàgbára ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ kan lẹ́ẹ̀kan ní kì í ṣàwa nìkan là ń ṣe of course kì í ṣàwa nìkan là ń ṣe tá a bá mọ tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní Ethiopia nìkan ó ní ipa tó máa kó nù nǹkan tó ń ṣe lọ́dọ̀ wa ó lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tá a máa kó ń bẹ̀ so gbogbo oríṣiríṣi mídíà tó wà ẹ jẹ́ ká sọ di educational platform àwọn tá a bá máa pè síbẹ̀ ẹ jẹ́ kó jẹ́ pé kì í ṣe pé ká kàn máa sọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá this Yorùbá that nìkan ẹ jẹ́ kó máa mú experiences other people wá ẹ jẹ́ ká máa mọ̀ nípa wọn ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ nípa tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ láyé Scotland nìyẹn bí gbogbo wa dẹ̀ láti ṣe ìlú ọba ìlú Gẹ̀ẹ́sì ìlú kinní kan ìlú kinní ìyẹn nìkan ti tó bá tẹ̀ jẹ́ pọ̀rọ̀ Scotland nìkan ìyẹn ti solve gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ regional kinní tá à ń sọ. But most of the time tá a bá rí tán bá ń bá kò sẹ́ni tó ń sọrú nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn so ẹ má jẹ́ ká abuse privilege táwa tá ní access sí social media ní ẹ jẹ́ ká fi máa sọ nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ẹ jẹ́ ká fi máa analyse issues táwọn èèyàn ń sọ ẹ jẹ́ ká fi educate àwọn èèyàn wa ká fi build up confidence wọn nínú ara wa àti nínú ara wọn so that tí ọ̀rọ̀ bá ń ṣẹlẹ̀ a mọ̀ bá ṣe máa handle ẹ jẹ́ ká jẹ gbogbo bragado tó ń lọ èmi ni mo pè bẹ́ẹ̀ o mi sọ pé n tó ń ṣe nìyẹn ò bọ̀ lọ́dọ̀ tèmi bragado ní gbogbo ẹ jẹ́ ká pààyàn tì ìyẹn ò lè gbé wa débi kankan ẹ jẹ́ ká fèsì ibi tá à ń lọ gbogbo wa là ń sọ yẹn pé ká fèsì ibi tá à ń lọ ẹ jẹ́ ká find the solution sí ọ̀nà wo la fẹ́ gbé gbà tá a bá ti lè find the solution sí yẹn àwa dẹ̀ like we said àwa ti ní solution ti wà which is the Yoruba referendum gbogbo nǹkan tí Yorùbá nídìí ló wà ní referendum yẹn débi pé a ní ká lé àwọn governors lọ pàápàá a ní ká yan àwọn tó máa ṣe aṣojú ilẹ̀ Yorùbá lórí nǹkan báyìí níta dúró lé lórí ni a dẹ̀ fi gbogbo ẹsẹ̀ síbẹ̀. This is what the Yoruba people want. This is how they want to live, in or out of Nigeria. And tí ó bá dẹ̀ ti gbà yẹn problem tiẹ̀ nìyẹn. Mo mean ní the rest of Nigeria ni. So àwọn gómìnà wọn á sì máa ṣe tán ṣe but àwa láwọn tó máa wá máa ṣàṣojú wa tó máa negotiate on our behalf kì dẹ̀ ṣe pé a kàn yàn wọ́n bẹ́ẹ̀ nítorí pé aláìkí fèsì wọn, òfin ló yàn wọ́n. So ẹni tó máa lé wọn kúrò ńbẹ̀ láti kọ́kọ́ gbé òfin yẹn kúrò náà, ẹ̀dẹ̀ mọ̀ tí yẹn mì. So n táwa tó fi dá wa lójú nìyẹn pé tá a bá ti fi òfin yẹn múlẹ̀ ní gbogbo Yorùbá state àti solve 50% of our problems. So màá rọ̀ wá pé nǹkan tá a bá ń gbé yẹ̀wò ẹ jẹ́ kó jẹ́ lórí ọ̀nà àbáyọ. Ẹ jẹ́ ká gbàgbé nípa lágbájá ṣe kinní kan, ẹnìkan ṣe kinní kan, èmi ni mo ṣiṣẹ́ jù, ẹnìkan gba kinní. Ẹ jẹ́ kí gbogbo yẹn ń ṣe issue. So àwọn tó ní mídíà tán ní gbogbo ẹ̀, ẹ jẹ́ ká máa gbé jáde. Okay, ọ̀nà wo tá a bá fẹ́ báyàn sọ̀rọ̀, gbogbo wa la mọ problem tá a ní, olúkálùkù lè ní different levels of understanding. Ọ̀nà wo ni ká gbà tá a fi máa yọ? Ẹni tí ò bá ti lè dáhùn question yẹn, ẹ má gbé wá sórí afẹ́fẹ́. Of course, ẹ lè máa play music o, ẹ lè máa ṣe tó bá mi command yín kẹ́ ṣe nǹkan, èmi kan make a suggestion tèmi. Question, the only question tó yẹ ká máa béèrè lọ́wọ́ ara wa ni ọ̀nà wo la fẹ́ gbé kinní ìgbà. Ẹni tí ò bá ti lè dáhùn ẹ jẹ́ kó jókòó ẹ̀ síbi tó bá wà. So once a bá ti níyẹn, ẹ̀yin gan máa rí iṣẹ́ rí gbogbo ìtàn ẹ̀ dáhùn. Àwọn náà wọ́n kàn ń wò wá náà ní pé kí làwọn people yìí, wọ́n mọ nǹkan tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀, wọ́n mọ̀ pé tá a bá ti ń ṣe báyìí àti àdírẹ́sì problem yẹn, ntẹ́rù ò ṣe bà wọ́n nìyẹn. So ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé n tó wà níwájú wa, ìrètí tó wà níwájú wa ó ju àwa gan lọ. Ìrètí yẹn dẹ̀ ní agbára tá a ní. Bá a dẹ̀ ṣe lè lo agbára yẹn ni ká direct ẹ̀ sí báwo la ṣe máa lò fún ọ̀nà àbáyọ. That is the central question tó wà before Yoruba people today. So mi ò mọ̀ bóyá mo dáhùn question ní dáadáa, but
ẹ ti dáhùn torí ìyẹn ò kì í ṣe, kò ń ṣe question, kò ń ṣe ìbéèrè pé kankan bá àwọn èèyàn wa sọ̀rọ̀ ni kí wọ́n lè mọ̀ pé kí wọ́n má rẹ̀wẹ̀sì, kí wọ́n sì jẹ́ ká ṣe àwọn tó yẹ ká ṣe kí o lè rí bó ṣe yẹ kó rí. Ẹ ṣeun lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ Alagba Femi Odedeyi. A mọ̀ pé ní agbára Ọlọ́run á tún rí yín ní bí ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì, èyí ó ti máa súnmọ́ láti jẹ chicken Christmas tàn gbà náà.
Chicken kan làwa máa jẹ o, tòlótòló la fẹ́ jẹ, a jẹ turkey o, tòlótòló la fẹ́ jẹ o. Ẹ mọ̀ pé yàtọ̀ wà nù tòlótòló àti turkey, àbí kò sí yàtọ̀? Yàtọ̀ wà kẹ́.
Turkey àti tòlótòló. A máa wò ẹ ṣe lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀ adúpẹ́.
Bí gbogbo ẹ ṣe rí náà, a sì máa dá inú wa sì máa dùn síra wa náà ni, a sì lè máa ṣe ká máa rẹ́rìn-ín, ká máa ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀. So má jẹ́ ká ní rẹ̀wẹ̀sì rárá, kò sí tí o, so no problem. So tòlótòló yín màá máa retí ẹ̀.
Ẹ ṣe lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀. A máa rí yín bá. Ẹ bá wa kílé.
Ẹ ṣé gan, àti gbogbo àwọn tán wò wá, kẹ́ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ àwọn náà, kẹ́ bá wa dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn pé wọ́n ṣe.
Gbogbo wọn náà ń gbọ́ bí a ṣe ń sọ̀rọ̀. Wọ́n gbọ́ bá a ṣe ń sọ̀rọ̀. Ẹ ṣe lọ́pọ̀lọpọ̀.
Ẹ ṣé.
A dúpẹ́ títí ọ̀sẹ̀ méjì. Ire kàǹkà. Ẹ ṣé gan sir.
Ẹ ṣé gan. Thank you very much.
Yes sir.
All right. Okay.
Yes sir. Right, viewers, thank you very much for joining us today. We will be right back here next Saturday at 3 p.m. Remember, we're on here on Saturdays and on Sundays. Please don't forget, for those of you that are in Scotland, we've had Mr. Deji in the first part of this of the broadcast for today. And remember, that is the NIN pre-enrollment scheme, which is now live in Scotland. And your place where you get that is here in Glasgow, and that is at Jesus Praise International Church of God, 97 Kingston Street, near Bonnie Park, Cash and Carry. That is interesting in Glasgow here. And of course, you can get across to the organizers on by sending your email to, I think I've got it right on here. I'll take that up to a full one just now. So you can check them up on their website, and that is where you need to register and then upload your documentation. And that is for NIN. And for those people that just want to have like a walk-in, that means you can turn up at Jesus Praise. They said the first one is £40, while the walk-in is £50. But it will be good for you to check on their website so that you will know the required documentation that they could check it there, and then you can walk in to get your NIN. Until we see you again on Saturday, I remain yours. My name is Samuel Oludare Yerokun. Yeah, right here from OY Media Scotland. Please do stay safe, and we will see you then. Thank you.